Yeah, thank you. Everyone please rise, we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All right, so good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank you to our first budget workshop for fiscal year 2026. Our town leadership, department heads and their team has put in considerable effort into preparing for this presentation, and I'd really like to express my gratitude for all the hard work that you and your teams have put forward or put into this. So I'd like to personally say thank you. Today, so our goal is to allow each of the department heads the space to present their budget without interruptions. I encourage everyone to take notes during the presentations and save most of those questions for the end. But if you have, if there's anything that needs immediate clarification, feel free to ask. I'd also like to thank the Budget Committee for being here. I know that with school and town, your town schedule because of school and town with their workshops and everything, your time commitment is great. But your insights are invaluable. So I definitely encourage you to ask those questions and value your feedback. So with that, one real quick point of order, just for everyone to know that's here, the break room is open. There is coffee, also decaf and stuff. So I know in the foyer we have some donuts, water, and orange juice and stuff. But the break room, if you go all the way down and into the back rear of the building, that's open for any coffee and such. So with that, we'll start with with Justin Campo and his team from the finance presentation standpoint. Mr. Campo, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Welcome to the kickoff of the budget season. So behind you is a PowerPoint, and we will get started with the news here. We're going to start with how the budget process works. We'll have two public hearings that will take place on December 16th and January 20th. The deliberative session will be held on February 8th, which is the second Saturday in February. The voters will have the choice to decide between the town council's proposed budget and the default budget, as well as various other warrant articles that will be proposed throughout the year. So the budget process is, in terms of the default, it is the prior fiscal year's budget, so FY25, reduced and increased by debt service, contractual items, salary, employee-related costs, other obligations that are previously incurred or mandated by law, and reduced by one-time expenses from the FY25 budget. So here is the headline of it. For fiscal year 26, the proposed budget as it stands right now is $44,820,806. The default budget is $44,027,660. The default budget is a 7.3% increase over the prior year fiscal budget. And the proposed budget is $793,146, or 9.23 above default. The increases to default, you can see them there. Trash and recycling is $171,530. New Hampshire retirement went up as well. Our operational contracts, the CBA agreements, insurance, as well as other increases such as the fire hydrants increasing by an estimated $119,716. We did have some reductions from default. Our debt service, we're further along in several of the bonds we have, so therefore the payment has dropped by $38,927. We have changed the long-term disability and life insurance carrier, and that has resulted in a savings of $69,183. Here are the what we're estimating for revenues for fiscal year 26. At this time, I would say that these are a rough estimate. They'll be fine-tuned throughout the fiscal year. You'll notice that if you look, I believe there's interest on investments in there at 650, which is remaining the same. With the anticipated cuts in November and December, we will take a look at where we stand in terms of that and make any adjustments necessary on that, depending on how the rates fall. The other big changes is you'll notice the pilot has increased. New Balance, the New Balance property will now be included as part of the pilot as per the agreement. These are the budgetary challenges that we face, and we face pretty much every year. It's the big one, as you can imagine, is increasing demand, as well as this year you'll see a lot of state and federal mandates that we have to account for. Inflation always plays a part, as well as finding the labor to fill the open positions available. So the proposed operating budget, as I said, it's $44,820,806. It's an increase of $3,787,352 from the prior fiscal year. A good chunk of this is from the legally mandated training, and the staffing issues increased the overtime by about $959,000. Unfunded mandates that required that overtime also require the training cost of the class. That assisted in increasing training by about $111,500. As I mentioned earlier, waste collection and recycling increased by $171,000. Even though that's the case, our contract is still in a better position than most of our surrounding towns in terms of what we pay compared to towns around us. The fire hydrants, because of the water contracts, increased by about $119,716. Insurance and benefits, medical, dental, all the other insurances, retirement, FICA, Medicare, that increased by over $1.1 million. As well as our IT contracts, which provide variety of services and increase our cybersecurity, increased by about $77,000. So this year, for the additional warrant articles, this is what we're currently looking at for the capital reserves, roadway maintenance, and expendable maintenance. We're going to look to continue funding the fire truck capital reserve. Last year we funded it at $100,000. This year I'm looking to increase it to $300,000. The thought with that is we have 2 fire trucks that we'll be receiving in June of 26 and then I believe March of 27. This will allow us to put about $200,000 away towards the principal balance, which in the long term will decrease the liability to the town that we have to raise through taxation for the lease payment. Fire equipment, we're looking to keep funding the same as it was last year. Information technology, we're looking to fund an additional $100,000. One of the reasons for this is we have a lot of older systems, ERP systems and things like that. You guys have heard me complain about my New World system that are outdated. As I've mentioned to some of you before, New World is no longer being sold to anybody else. So writing on the wall, sooner or later they're going to stop servicing it. Rather than having a giant increase at once, the thought is put it away, that way it is ready to go when we do need to make that switch over. The cable is from the Comcast franchise agreement, so that'll be funded through that payment we receive. Master plan, we're looking to increase that as well this year as we continue with the development of the master plan and moving forward with that. Recreation is $20,000, and we're looking to establish a police department equipment capital reserve similar to what the fire department has. That way we're able to assist with some of the larger expenses that are kind of a one-off type situation or unexpected expenses that may occur in terms of the police department equipment. Expendable maintenance, we're looking to keep funding at the same level, as well as the roadway maintenance trust fund. Other warrant articles that will be coming up is the DPW will be looking for various vehicles. Fire department will be presenting you with a new ladder truck. We also will have 5 union CBAs on the contract. 5 union CBAs on the warrant. The library will be presenting a children's librarian option, and we're looking to establish a potential contingency fund to assist with some issues that are currently occurring. Give me 1 second there. So the contingency fund, per the RSA, essentially, it's RSA 3198A. Establishing this fund will provide for additional reassurance for unanticipated expenses that arise throughout the year. The fund cannot exceed 1% of the amount appropriated from the previous fiscal year's budget, and the calculation does not include capital expenditures or debt payments. So if you look at the fiscal year 25 budget, I've already taken away the capital expenditures and debt payments. You're looking at $39,666,772. 1% of that is the number you see below. So this is a bit of a unique situation for those that have dealt with me before. This is my current proposed use of fund balance, which is about a little over $1 million. The use for this, as you can see, is to fund the reserves, capital reserves, and trust funds that we have in place, as well as the contingency fund, with the thought being that the money we've received that would fund this is from the taxpayers, so it should go to things that the taxpayers intended to use for that maybe we didn't get to in that fiscal year, or it will take a large one-time expense to do it. That's why you're looking at those numbers for that. You're looking at $100,000 for the expendable maintenance, $100,000 for police equipment, $37,500 for the fire department equipment, $300,000 for the fire department truck. The information technology capital reserve will get 50, Pillsbury Cemetery 25, master plan 25, the recreation 10,000, and the contingency fund will be funded fully through fund balance. This is where we currently stand for undesignated fund balance. At the end of the fiscal year, taking out the $200,000 for the Taxpayer Relief Act, you're looking at $7,816,717. Per all except for DRA, we have funds to spend. One of the reasons for this increase is the revenues that we received last year in excess of what was budgeted, as well as various liabilities lapsing, such as the school district next door, where they're now planning on going somewhere else. So therefore, the money that had been put aside based on the warrant article passage was able to lapse back into fund balance where it was taken from.
Justin, can I pause you for a question?
Absolutely.
The $200,000 in UFB for Taxpayer Relief Act, how many years is that into effect?
This is the final year of it.
It is, okay. I didn't know we had passed how many years. When did that happen?
3 years ago.
In 2019, when it was passed, it stated how long it would be into effect
Gotcha. And how much of effect on the tax rate will that be, the $200,000?
for. Less than 4 cents.
Yeah.
See, it's about 62,000 per penny. When this was initially established, it was 4 cents on the tax rate. But as the valuation grew, the impact of it drops because of the valuation, essentially. So back when it was established, 50,000 was a penny on the tax rate. Currently, it's about 62,000
So it saves me $25.44 a year.
roughly,
Yeah.
depending on your house value, yes. We also need to fund overlay, veterans tax credit, and the elderly exemption. These are the estimates for these as of today. So the tax rate setting process. Voters approved the budget and warrant articles in March. Valuation is completed in September, October, based on the April 1st values. State revenues are announced in October, and other revenues are also revealed. DRA will set the tax rate in November, and the tax bills will then be sent out, and they are due 1 month after they are sent out. So, some future considerations for the town for this budget and beyond. You have 256 Mammoth Road, which is the Morrison House. Sewer and water infrastructure, properly staffing public safety departments, the department's aging equipment and costs to fix it versus replace it, the DPW facility, and funding expenses associated with community events and atmosphere. So to address one of them, you have staffing public safety departments properly. You're going to hear from all your public safety departments today and their needs. I don't want to trample over anything that they're going to say because they can say it much better than me. As I say, I like to leave the department's administration to explain how to run their department best. One of the items, however, that I would like to address and bring to your attention and potentially get a consensus from the council is regarding the fire department. Currently, they have $60,000 allocated in ARPA funds. As we're well aware, when the deputy chief, assistant chief positions were established, one of the individuals was taken off the line. So right now, their current staffing is 3 battalions at 13 and 1 at 12. The warrant article was written previously from last year to allow us the flexibility to make sure that we can fill that position should the council decide to. The finance department went through, looked, tried to find any way we can to do it without impacting other departments and limiting the impact for everyone. What we found is recently ARPA, the guidelines for ARPA, their 15th interim final rule, I'm not really sure what number we're at now, but they changed the definition of obligation and allow it to incur expenses beyond December 31st. So the example here is if we are able to hire somebody before December 31st for the fire department, we are able to utilize ARPA funds to pay them the remainder of the year. So in this year, there will be no tax impact to the voters and the taxpayers. With your approval, we can take the $60,000 that they currently have dedicated for other equipment and reallocate it to fill this position and get all 4 battalions at 13. They need to have the individual on board before December 31st, but in speaking with the fire department, they already have several candidates that they believe could hit this mark or should hit this mark. This position going forward will become part of default and part of the operating budget as well. So the reason I'm asking for a general consensus is so the next time we meet, I can adjust the figures for the fire department to include this additional position that was moved to administration.
If I can ask a question?
Yep.
And then respectfully, if I'd like to hear some more information from the fire department
Absolutely.
on this. So just for clarification, the intent is to, so funds the 60,000, as you're saying, that was allocated from ARPA per Rule 15 or whatever it is, the use of those ARPA funds can be transferred to funding the salary till the end of the fiscal year. And the intent is essentially move that over to that salary. And then that salary come fiscal year 26, thank you, would be rolled into the default budget. And what you're looking for is a consensus from the council to essentially do that.
Reallocate the funds.
Reallocate those funds.
Yep.
And that would staff that 4th Battalion to 13
Correct.
now, but they have to be hired by December 31st.
Correct.
Okay. And
We're already looking at ways to ensure that for whatever reason should that not happen, we're still able to do that, but it takes a lot of research to make sure that everything plays out. This was not a quick, easy find. This was reviewing webinars and going through the language as much as we could to make sure that we are capable of doing this.
okay. And just to be crystal clear, ARPA is going to cover till the end of fiscal year 2025, and then this budget will be rolled in the fiscal year 2026.
Up to the $60,000 in expenses, yes.
Okay. And then I I guess I'll go to the council. Do you want to hear from the fire chief, or do you want to wait for his presentation?
I don't need anything.
I don't need anything.
I don't need anything. I mean, I'm good with that. Council good with that?
Yes.
All right.
All right. So that was the big one with that. The rest.
Can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
So, I'm so sorry.
You're good.
The money was already allocated to fire. It's not coming from any other departments? or-
No other department is impacted by this because the money was already allocated by the council for equipment
Okay,
for the fire department.
okay.
Yeah.
So, so what's the impact going forward? So after the ARPA funds run out, or after we finish that term, the time
Yep.
frame of the ARPA funds, what is it going forward? Is it 120 for the,
No, it's about $150,000 to bring on a firefighter, so that would roll into default.
okay. And that's already been on a warrant, it doesn't have to go on a warrant again?
It's not on a warrant,
No,
it's
it
coming out of
from
ARPA.
default.
So, to
You
your
don't
point, with
technically need a warrant to hire.
Okay,
correct. But to your point as well, when I created the warrant article last year, I wanted to make sure we had flexibility. So should it have failed, we could try to find ways to get the battalion staff to 12. This warrant article, now that it's at 13, it still allows us the ability to staff all the way to 13. It's just a matter of that position that was moved to administration.
All right,
This essentially funds it for this year. It fulfills the wishes of the taxpayers at 70% to staff all four at 13. And then with the consensus we just have, next week you'll see it in, or not next week, next meeting, you'll see that additional position in the budget.
I'm not disagreeing, I was just clarifying.
no, perfect, thank you. All right, you have a consensus. Thank you.
Perfect. One of the other items I covered was community events and atmosphere. So one of the other things that came to light with all this is a lot of times you'll hear, well, find it, find the money, find the money. We do our best. We try our hardest. These are things that I think we need to start bringing to the forefront. Currently funded in the operating budget is the fireworks, an Old Home Day contribution, and a Concerts on the Common contribution. What's not funded is the overtime associated with Old Home Day for the police, fire, DPW. The prep that they have to do to go into Old Home Day, which essentially means they're not doing other things of their job that they would normally be able to because they're focusing on the prep for that. The police also assist with the Concerts on the Common overtime. Every election, you're going to have police and fire there, and it's not a cheap expense depending on the election and how many elections there are. And then you also have things such as the town common expense. The town common needs to look good, needs to look pretty, but you look at it and it's not done for free, I guess is the best way to put it. In the budget this year, if you look at the general government, you'll see an increase of $20,000 to the town common expense line. That's to cover the lights in the winter to allow the town commons trees to look nice and pretty and kind of give that small hometown feel. Those were, we went out, got a couple quotes here and there. Wasn't expecting it to be that high. But we got between 18 and I think 21,000. And that's money that we have to take from somewhere else this year if we want to continue doing so. That's why we put in the budget for next year for the budget committee and town council to make that determination.
So Concerts on the Common sent me a note as their liaison asking for $7,000 more. Just as a note, they sent that along.
All righty. So that is another thing the council and budget committee will have to decide on.
I'm just sharing information. If I remember the number correctly, elections and Old Home Day is about, and Chief will correct me if I'm wrong, about 75,000 for elections and Old Home Day?
Depending on which one, sir, but in that ballpark.
Combined, they're about 75,000?
Old Home Day this year was almost 26,000.
But elections and Old Home Day and Concerts on the Common, 75,000?
Yes, but it could be more with the major primaries. So that is a good.
depending on the
So
election year.
75,000 is a good number. So, Public Works, we don't ever get any money for anybody coming from the presidential pieces. I would ask that we consider a discussion around a warrant article for $100,000 to fund all these activities, and ask for it to be moved into default. However DRA says we have to do it, but let's get it on the surface and let's talk about it.
Okay. One of my hesitations with that is the no means no. So we're going to have to be careful with the wording on that, because should it
I
fail,
understand.
that essentially could mean that the overtimes are what they are and you cannot
Or put it
overexpend.
in to exceed default.
Perfect.
Or we could put it with UFB.
Let's have a discussion about it, but it looks
Yeah.
like the number's about $100,000 that we needed to absorb or find to fund all of these activities.
So what you need to keep in mind is you got 75,000 from the police.
Right, well, he said 26, then he said 50, depends on the year for election.
Right.
Then I'm looking at, the fire piece is gonna be a little bit less. Public
Okay.
Works is gonna be a little bit less. But 100,000 is a good number, at least to start a discussion.
Okay, perfect.
The number might be 80, the number might be 150.
Yep,
But at least we know we're having a serious conversation if it's $100,000.
absolutely. Like, I just wanted to make sure that 75 is police, so you then add in the other two. So like you're saying, we'll put it on, we can have the discussion. We can,
It might be 118, I don't know what the number is, but we need to have a serious
I can work with the
discussion.
departments to make sure that we can get a more precise number for each department, and we can go from there with that, depending on the election and
Great point
everything.
to bring up.
Perfect.
What you probably also didn't include in there is that this year, the clerk's office probably needs money as well for elections. If they don't budget for these 4-year cycles. Do they?
So, yes and no. We don't budget for the overtime aspect of the clerks themselves. We
Right.
do budget for the ballot clerks that we hire. So this year you'll see a decrease in the voter registration or election fund for the clerks, because next year we only have the municipal election. So we only budgeted for the municipal ballot clerks. When we have,
But
so
have we-
this year, for example, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
This year, for example, the fiscal year 25 budget, we have the state primary,
Municipal.
municipal, and federal election. So we have 3 different sets of ballot
We
clerks.
also have the presidential primary.
That was last fiscal year, though.
But what I'm saying is that they have these cycles that run
Yep.
every 4 years. We can't budget under default for every 4 years. For example,
I-
I think they've put out almost 3,500 absentee ballots, in the last, up till now.
Yep.
So how do we budget for that under default?
So with the ballot clerks, the argument is we have to have people at the ballot. Legally, we're required to have people there. That's why the overtime, though, is what I think you're trying to get at for the actual clerks themselves. You're right. There, we can't budget, but we budget for the ballot clerks, the individuals actually over at the high school taking it in. We budget the hours based on what Jonathan and Sherry give me and what the pay rate is and the number of elections, because we're legally obligated to have people there.
So my point is, do we want to put money in here for that?
It's something we can discuss.
Okay, thank you.
And the final slide is the town budget review schedule. You'll see up there November 12th and November 18th. We have budget workshops, as well as December 2nd and December 9th. On December 16th, we'll have the preliminary budget approval, depending on where we are in the budget and how far along everything has come. That will also be the first public hearing. If a bond is required, there will also be a public hearing for that, and hopefully potentially the warrant approval. As I've stated in the last meeting, if you're doing a citizen's petition for a bond, January 10th, that Friday, is the deadline. If you're doing a citizen's petition warrant article, January 14th, the second Tuesday in January, is the deadline. And I'll give my little spiel here. It's 25 registered voters. I recommend you get more than that, because should one, for whatever reason, not be able to be verified or validated, you have additional on there, and you're not missing having it because you missed one. You are welcome to send your articles to the town. We'll have our legal team go over them and make sure that they are fully legal and enforceable. January 20th will be the final public hearing, and that is where the budget and warrant will be adopted. The second Saturday, February 8th, will be deliberative session, and then March 11th, 2025, will be the town meeting and election.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to open it up to the council and the budget committee for any questions for Mr. Campo and his team. All right, seeing none, we'll move.
Oh, carry on. Yeah, we got time. We can do it another meeting.
All right. Next, I'd like to invite Erin Matlin up and her team. I know we have some trustees as well. So good morning, Erin. Thank you for being here early on a Saturday morning. So if you'd like to introduce your team, and we'll get things going.
Love the picture.
Thank you. Clearly, that's Oscar enjoying the library. He has his own library card, so it makes sense. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Town Council members, and members of the Budget Committee. Thank you so much for this opportunity for us to present our FY26 Leach Library budget. My name is Erin Matlin, Library Director, and with me today is Donna Plant, my Assistant Director and Head of Technical Services. Donna's going to be presenting the first handful of slides for our presentation, and then I'll present. After our presentation, I do have a couple of trustees that would like to come up and speak to the budget. So take it away, Donna.
All right. Good morning, everyone. And just to reiterate, I really appreciate you taking the time to hear us out and hear what's been happening at the library. So we appreciate that. To get started, I just wanted to cover kind of some of our successes over the past year or so, and as well as a couple challenges as well. So to start, community outreach, we've done, I feel, a great job with our current staffing to be able to get out into the community and really promote library services and have people see us out at events. So some actually pictured here at the top photo is staff representing the library at a concert on the Common over the summer. And the photo underneath it is our staff representing the library at Lancer Speak Up Day at the high school. Some other things we've done is we've attended Touch a Truck. We've done several concerts on the Common. We were at the Londonderry Senior Expo recently, and we've also been here in this room for the town's employee benefits fair. And we hope to continue growing this list of events as well. But the other thing we have been working on is collaborating with other organizations and departments on programming. So the photos here, the top one is a picture from Concert on the Common for Kids, which was the first time we'd offered that. We teamed up with the Londonderry Arts Council to be able to offer a special concert just for kids on a Saturday afternoon over the summer, which was a big success. We had over 200 people attend, and we hope to do that with them again. The photo underneath it was Night at the Museum, which we offered over the summer with the Historical Society. We did a special evening at the Aviation Museum right in Londonderry to kind of focus on a resource that's available to our patrons. And we also have a museum pass, so it was kind of a nice promotion there.
Yeah.
Some other things we've done, we've been working with the Senior Center more to offer some more programs at the Senior Center, including book discussion groups, which has been great. Those have been very well attended, and we plan to continue doing that. We've worked with the recreation department over the summer to have a couple staff attend a week, or actually offer activities weekly at their summer camp, which was a huge success. We had a series of gardening programs that we offered earlier in the year with the Green Team. We've also been working with local restaurants and businesses to offer some off-site programming. So an example would be we offered a story time program at Max Apples. And we've also done many book discussion groups at local restaurants, which we're calling Read Local. We've also worked with LAFA and to offer a couple live animal presentations outdoors, which were both very successful. And this is just a little preview of what we've done. We've done a lot more than this. So we're very proud and excited to share that we won the Granite State Library Card Challenge, and we brought home the trophy for the first time ever. This is a statewide competition, friendly competition among public libraries, where during the month of September, which is Library Card Sign-Up Month, we kind of have a competition to see who can sign up the most patrons and renew expired cards. That's counted as well. During September, we had over 800 patrons come into the library to renew their card or sign up for a new card. Part of the success of this is that we did kind of a postcard campaign. So you may have received a postcard yourself to remind our current card holders that they needed to come in and renew their card. And I will say that I think another huge factor in us being able to achieve this is that we were in the process of joining the GMILKS consortium, which was a huge draw to all those patrons that came in to sign up. Which leads me to the next slide. So this week, in fact, was the first week that we were live with our new catalog and with GMILKS. And it's been a big learning curve, but it's been very exciting.
Very successful.
And we've had a lot of happy patrons. So now patrons, after having joined, have access to direct access, I should say, to over 1.4 million items, which is a lot more than we could ever house in our building. They're able to pick up and return items at any GMILKS library, and of course that improves convenience. There's faster service where they're now able to receive requests within about 1 to 3 days, whereas before it was a matter of weeks. So a big difference in faster service there. Our catalog is a huge upgrade. A couple big things to note are that patrons can now opt in for digital notifications, so they can receive text and emails instead of us calling them all the time. And then secondly, we can now integrate our digital holdings, whereas before patrons had to go and search those separately. They now do one search and they get everything that they can access with their card. So if you want to go, and the last part too is I really wanted to note that the support network has been really incredible with all the GMILKS staff and other librarians. Last year I was here kind of sharing that, sharing that I felt GMILKS was really, in a sense, mutual aid for our library. And I think that's really played out to be true in our experience. Not only that, but one of the things I had shared with the mutual aid piece was that in the instance of any kind of emergency for the library, our patrons would still have access elsewhere. And I mean, unfortunately, we had that experience this year, which I'll share in a moment. But there were also 2 other libraries in the consortium that had a similar experience within the last 6 months. And we really saw that mutual aid play out for them too. So, yes. And then I quickly just wanted to visually share with you the changes with the catalog. So this is the homepage that patrons would see when they visited our old catalog.
Blah. Terrible.
Not very colorful. Unfortunately, they had to click twice before they even saw a search bar. And there was really no opportunity to browse or to promote any of our collections. This is what it looked like when you actually completed a search. So I did a search for the most popular item right now, which is the women. And you can see that It can be difficult to determine the formats of the items available. Some patrons also had difficulty seeing if it was even available to them to check out. And it doesn't tell you anything about where the item is located in the library. This is the new homepage of the catalog. A lot more colorful. Search bar is right there. There's a lot of opportunity to browse, and we're going to be continuing to build that out as time goes on. This is just week 1. So we plan to add more, instead of only featuring the new items, we're also going to be featuring trending items, award winners. We'll have opportunity to share materials that relate to our programming, that sort of thing. This is what that same search for the women looks like in the new catalog. It's a lot, I know it's really tiny on the screen, but it's a lot clearer what formats are available. You can see that our digital holdings are integrated, so they don't have to go and search those systems separately. They're right there. They can also see how many copies are available in the whole system. And it's clear, especially with this title, that I think there were 71 copies of the regular print available as an example. And with the demand, that number of copies can really meet that demand much faster than we were able to on our own. And challenges. So the big challenge was back in May. We had a failed valve that led to a lot of water damage. I do want to really thank DPW for saving the day and getting the water turned off and allowing us to really get things going right away. So the books and everything wasn't sitting in water damage for too long. Thankfully, it also happened while staff was in the building, so it wasn't just sitting overnight. We ended up assessing over 4,500 items in that area, and ultimately there were over 1,600 items damaged that will need to be replaced. We did receive some insurance funds because of this. However, and as expected, they didn't really cover the true value of the materials, since they the way they did it was they considered depreciation of the items. But when we go to replace them, we are still paying the full cost. So I also kind of wanted to note that Justin was a huge help in helping us get to, well, we're not even quite there yet, but in the future we will be in a place where we're actually replacing all of those items. And that's mainly because we were able to encumber funds from fiscal year 25 to make that happen. And the reason why those funds were available was due in part to Aaron's very conservative spending. So we had that money at the end of the year to do that. So I just wanted to note that because of that, there will be no impact to that replacement process in the FY26 budget. The other challenge that has been a really major one is staffing, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because Aaron's going to cover. So that's where I'll turn it over to you, Aaron.
Thank you. Give you their notes. All right. Thank you, Donna. I'm going to speak to mainly statistics in my slides. You'll see that this next slide here gives a snapshot of our circulation statistics. You'll see that the physical items have been pretty much steady for the last 2 years. However, the digital circulation has grown significantly. We recognize that quite a few of our patrons are commuters and use those digital services, or they just enjoy listening to a book over the digital part. Some of our elderly patrons also use the digital services because it's easier for them instead of holding a book. Even the large print books can be heavier than the average book, so having those digital options are really helpful. And we do have quite a few of them. We have Libby, Hoopla, and now we have access to the cloud library based on our membership with GMilks. So 3 options for our patrons to find the material that they're looking for. And we do anticipate the numbers for the digital and even the physical items to go up as due to our membership of GMilks. So we anticipate more patrons coming in using those services. So we're excited to obviously offer that to those patrons. On the next slide is our reference transactions. This department sees a number of questions. They can range from placing hold on a book to assisting with job help or notary services. In fact, last July, we had assisted over 320 notaries. Clearly a very popular service and a service that is needed. And obviously, the clerk's office, being as busy they are this time of year and all year, we're able to kind of be that second option for our patrons. So we've been very happy to offer that. Our reference department is obviously very busy, and their services range from quite a bit, as you can tell from the items listed on that slide. And I just want to point out, having that notary service is, again, a continuing option of saving money to our patrons, so they don't have to go to outside services. So on the next slide is library programs. Here, I just want to, our staff work very hard researching, putting together, planning, advertising, and of course, hosting many library programs. And as you can tell by this slide, they are well attended. I would just like to highlight the children's programming for a bit. You see that the amount of programs has pretty much stayed the same. However, we had an increase of over 2,000 patrons attending our programs, which is pretty fantastic. In addition, looking at the adult programs, we also not only had an increase in the amount of programs, but also the attendance of those programs, which in my opinion speaks to my staff, how well they're doing in providing some great programming, some variety of programming to our patrons. And obviously those patrons really enjoy coming to those programs. This past summer reading 2024 was super fun and super busy. We're excited that many of our patrons enjoyed our programs, our crafts, and events. I also want to take a moment to thank those local businesses who contributed prizes to our summer reading. Their donations really helped make our summer a success, and obviously helped encourage our patrons to sign up to hopefully win some of those prizes. And we are already planning for summer 2025. So in regards to library visits, with all the checkouts, the programs, the reference questions, obviously we have people coming into the building. And with an increase of over 13,000 more visitors from 2023 to 24, it's clear that we are very busy and we continue to be busy. We anticipate this number going up as we enjoy visitors from other GMILK's library communities coming to use our library, either to check out material or just to use services in our building. One of the basic foundations of libraries are sharing. This has been our model since the very beginning. That's what we're built on. The sharing of resources, the sharing of tangible objects, the sharing of experiences, the sharing of equity. Those are all very basic principles of why libraries exist. And it's clear with these visits from our patrons, they use and need and want the library in their community. And the sharing just goes into that whole kind of what we fought for was for the GMILK's consortium, is to continue to share those items and those experiences. Speaking of GMILK's, so we are, as Donna had mentioned, we are officially a member of GMILK's, and I'm happy that was as of October 28th, as Donna had mentioned. The whole process went very smooth, and that was because of the expertise of the GMILK staff, which, mind you, is only 2 people. And my staff who worked very hard to get us ready, including Donna here, who spent many hours in meetings on the phone and working with that GMILK staff to behind the scenes, that catalog that you saw, all of that was the hard work of Donna. So, and my head of circulation. So I appreciate their time in doing that. And we'd want to thank our patrons for their patience during the transition of that new system, in addition to thank the other libraries who have welcomed us into the GMILK's family and our patrons. It's only been 6 days since our live date, but we've already seen patrons from other libraries. We've already received material from other libraries for our patrons, and we've gotten so much positive feedback and so much thank yous, I guess you could say, for offering the service. So here's some photos around the library. The first photo there up at the top left is a poster exhibit from the Smithsonian. This exhibit was entitled A Place for All People, Introducing the National Museum of African American Culture. This was on display in June in honor of Juneteenth. It was nice to offer kind of like a different I mean, we do displays all the time in the library, but this was a different kind of display, which we thought was a more a different experience for our patrons, which we were really happy to offer them. And there are other exhibits through the Smithsonian that we can certainly get. So we will plan to do more of that in the future. The second slide up there in the middle is the eclipse party, where we gave out glasses, and we obviously we were able to provide a beautiful lawn space for our patrons to view the eclipse. We were very lucky to have a beautiful day to have such a clear view of that, so we were pretty excited that took place. You'll see the next slide over is Community Story Times. It was a program that we offered this past summer, and I believe we've offered it in the summer prior, where our local heroes and other community members came and read stories to children. It was a great success. Obviously, Oscar down in the bottom left there, enjoying his water dish. He's been a great draw for patrons. The children and adults even love him very much. We have a lot of people writing stories to Oscar, about Oscar, sharing how they, coming to see him helps calm them, the kids have shared. So it's nice that he's part of our family.
Perhaps you want to bring Oscar to calm all of us after we see these numbers.
Yes. So the middle slide there is one of the programs that Donna had mentioned, the Birds of Prey program that took place at the Laffa Fields. And we want to thank them again for offering that space. It was obviously a much needed space when you're talking about birds to have that space. So, and again, another beautiful day. We got lucky on that one. And then the final slide there is just another one of our programs. We offer it's called Book Bingo, and that's offered to both kids and adults, where they play bingo and they can get free books from our bookshop. So I'm just going to speak to what Justin had mentioned, the full-time children's librarian. So obviously, with the mentions of the previous slides, the increase in program attendance, the increase in patron visits, we do have a desperate need for a full-time children's librarian. With the support of our board and trustees, this request will be going to Warrant in March, and we ask the community to support it. Why is this position important? Well, currently our children's room, we have one full-time department head in that room, and staff that rotate to be at that service desk. When our department head is not able to do it. So there's a lot of inconsistency in that room as far as staffing. If hired, this person would assist with planning and obviously leading programming, which, as you can tell, was a very big part of our numbers. They would also assist in collection development for the children's room, give opportunities for other staff to do off-desk work and cover other desks in the library. We have noticed, even in the 6 days that we've been part of GMILKS, that we've been very busy, and this would allow staff to be able to attend to other service desks as well. We would have a trained MLS, which is a Master's in Library Science degree librarian, to give readers advisory and assistance on requests. And it would also be a familiar face to all of the families that come into the library on a daily basis, which is important when you're talking about children and their comfort level. It would also give us an opportunity to continue and hopefully even grow that collaboration with the schools on school visits, either to them or to us, or more potential programs and collaboration with them. So we had over 12,000 patrons attend just our children's programs in 1 year. So it is, in my opinion, a very much needed position. The next slide is just some thank yous I'd like to mention. I'd like to thank our Board of Trustees. They've been great in supporting our library mission and continue to advocate for the library and how it enriches the lives of our community through books and wonderful programs. I think having their support has been really valuable. In addition to the Friends of the Leach Library, they've been really wonderful. They have a really great group, and they've been fundraising and using that fundraising to help support library programs and coming up with some really innovative ways to do that. And then I'd like to thank the town departments, obviously DPW with the flood, and many other town departments who have been really great supporting the library. And it's nice that as a department head, I'd like to speak that I feel I can call any of my department heads at any given day And if there's an emergency or there's a need, they will come and they will answer the call. And I appreciate that very much, knowing that I have a team of members behind me, as well as members at Town Hall. And it's just been comforting to know that we have that support. So our final budget is, we are asking for $1,567,629.77. Some of the goals that we are working on for fiscal '26 is obviously to continue the library's digital user experience. As you can tell, that was very popular. To continue to connect and collaborate with Londonderry school districts and other town departments to expand the reach of our services, and also to identify a plan for the future facility, for the future of this facility, not another facility, needs due to the age of the last expansion, which was in 1997. So we're coming close to on 30 years. And we're going to hopefully kind of make a list and try to come up with prioritizing those projects, if any, going forward on how to fund them if needed or anything like that. So at this time, that's the last of my speech. Does anybody have any questions?
Before you get into the questions, I just want to address one thing. If you look in the budget book, the number is slightly different. When I gave Aaron these numbers, we had not fully calculated out the long-term life as well as workers' comp figures, which is the reason for the $28-ish difference.
This was the number that the trustees approved at their trustee meeting.
Thanks for clarifying $28.
I was looking for 10 yesterday, so.
Every penny counts.
Yep.
So you're looking at about a 4.5% increase?
Yes, yes, under 5%. I didn't know if you wanted the trustees to come up or if you want to ask questions first. That's up to you guys.
I just have a quick question.
Of course.
One of the things that I watched the town council meeting on, I think it was the 18th of October, where people kept talking about how it seems like a lot of our departments are vastly underfunded for a lot of the needs that they had. And one of the things that came up was like the police department not doing some training and giving up some of these other things. It sounds like a lot of the people in the town are not psyched about that. Does your budget allow for you to have all the services that you need to be able to provide to the residents of the town of Londonderry? Is it right? Basically, is it right sized?
So the budget right now, if the warrant goes through and we are able to get that children's librarian, we would be in a good place.
Okay.
We are not in the best place. We still need additional staffing. We are understaffed. We obviously need additional funding related to some of the areas in our budget. There are some areas that are zeroed out, and that's as looking at that conservativeness and that preparation for, not asking for too much. But I would say we're in an okay place to continue what we're doing. I wouldn't say we would be able to do too much more with the proposed budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you want to speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, actually, from Erin's words herself, at a previous board meeting, she shared that this budget is a place of survival. It's surviving, not thriving.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So with that said, what is the increase you budgeted for your employees on wages?
They got their cost of living increase, and then there would be the merit increase.
Is it 3, 4, 5?
The cost of living, I believe, is 3%, and then the merit increase is 3.5%,
up to 3.
up to 3.5%. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But there's no change compared to the default.
All of that is accounted for in default.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, correct.
They did
Yep.
not increase it beyond the default.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I've been sharing numbers with, been doing economic analysis because of what I do for work and everything over the last year and a half, and I've been sharing numbers with the council. I'm working with a major supermarket right now in the New York metropolitan area. They shared numbers with me. Since 2019, their cost of goods has gone up 22%.
Yep.
Their margin has gone down from 6% to 5%. There's also a major CPG company that shared that, just go out and buy beans. Beans used to be 99 cents a can. Now they're $1.50 a can. That CEO shared that the cost is 50 cents more because what he has to pay for packing material, meaning cans, paper, or whatever it is. Are you facing the same thing?
Yes. Actually, one of the prime examples I shared with the Board of Trustees is a hardcover large print book has now reached a list price of over $40 for just one book. And previously, we could get that book around a $30 mark. We do receive sometimes a discount. So that's just one example. And part of the reason why we're looking to restore our book line in this budget, to go back to about $100,000 in there. But absolutely, yes, we're seeing.
So you're seeing the same 15 to 20% cost that everybody else is seeing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, compared to default, there are less than 1% increase.
This is my whole problem with default. Default is stupid.
I understand.
I mean, so that, I'm trying, I get what you're saying, but the point I'm trying to make here is that the law is a piece of junk.
Yes.
And we can't economically function under this law.
Oh, I completely agree. I'm just
Yeah.
going off of what we legally are as a town right now, financially.
Well, yeah, I get it, but it's wrong.
And my understanding of like ebooks and stuff like that is you will buy an ebook, but you don't actually own the ebook. You're essentially renting it for a period of time. So those fees continue to need to be paid. Because even if you buy an ebook, I don't know how much ebooks are, but let's say they're $50, and you might only be able to license it for 2 years, and then you've got to pay that $50 again.
Yep. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that's a continuing cost.
I'd like to invite the trustees up to come and speak, if that's okay.
Justin, on their way up, can you clarify the three different columns: department budget, proposed budget, town council budget?
Yes. So the department budget is essentially what they gave to me flat out. This is what it is based on where we are. The proposed budget historically would have adjustments taken out by the town manager and myself. And then the town council budget is what the town council goes from there. I say historically because this year, I think out of all the departments, there was only one adjustment that I made, and that was to increase a line because historically it was overspent by about $3,000. But that's normally what it would be. This year, for the most part, all three are the same, except for one line. I believe it was in police where I bumped it up 3,000 because if you look at their actuals, I think it was 10,000, 9,000, high 9,000s, and 11,000, and their budget was 7. So I bumped it up to 3 in the proposed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Good morning.
Hi, how are you? I'm going to be short and sweet because I don't have a voice. My name is Kim Bears, 19 Adams Road. Can I say that? I'm the current chair of the library trustees, and I really just want to say thank you for listening to us today. Sometimes we get left behind, but we're standing up for what we want, and we definitely are so excited about GMILKs. Have you all been in? Do y'all have your library cards? Mm-hmm. Okay, you got to come in, try and see what's going on. This staff is amazing. 3 years ago, when you'd go to the library, it was not a fun place to be. Now, it is bright again. It's sunshining again. People smile. It's wonderful. We have a great staff. Please listen to what they're asking. Our budget this year is for 2026 is definitely not a want-based budget. It's a need-based budget. And it's very important to keep these services going because these young children that attend all these programs are going to be sitting where you are someday. And it's important to go for the library. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Thomas, 143 Mammoth Road, Londonderry. I have the honor and privilege of currently serving Londonderry as a trustee for the Leach Library and newly elected secretary. Part of the responsibilities of a library trustee is to review the library budget and make recommendations. I'm here in support of the library budget and to describe how librarian director Erin Matlin, has managed her budget to bring exciting programs to Londonderry. It's really funny because what Kim said is reflected in what I'm going to be saying about the excitement and the vibrance of the atmosphere of the library, because we didn't even discuss this. It's just something that it happened, and we all see that happening. Erin was hired as the Leach Library Director only a few years ago. Since then, the Leach Library has grown as a vibrant library where both the general public and the library staff interact with respect, trust, and camaraderie. I walk into the library, and staff and patrons all seem to not only smile, but beam with excitement. There's a constant endeavor on the staff's part to keep abreast of the needs of their patrons and meet the changing needs of all of our patrons. A library has a responsibility to provide services to all, the general public. It has to address the needs and desires of a vast age range and differing interests of its patrons. The Leach Library now offers not only books and magazines, but digital books, loans also. It has a lending program that includes videos, games, sporting equipment, and even a telescope and a 3D printer. The library has recently joined a consortium of local libraries that allow our patrons access to programs and vast numbers of books. But the library is more than just books. Leach Library offers all types of programming for everyone of all age groups. These new programs have brought much excitement to the patrons, and even the children learn by participating in the discovery of our library pet, Oscar. One would think that one little turtle doesn't make a difference, but it does. Kids come in and they just aim straight to where the Oscar is and to see what he's doing today. It's something that draws them into the library, and then they get sucked into the books. These programs have enriched the lives of our citizens and and our patronage have significantly increased. As participation increased, Erin did a comparison study of local libraries and staffing levels for local towns with approximately the same number of residents. She discovered that the Leach Library is lagging in the number of personnel, and with the additional increase of over 2,000 attendees participating in events up to now, and that's not even including the future, the last 3 months of eventing. It's easy to see that I can't turn a page, that her staff has increased challenges to meet the growing demand. Erin did a deep dive study of her staff and responsibilities and came up with I and all the trustees feel is a fair and just solution. If the Leach Library could just add one more full-time professional librarian to the children's room, it could continue to serve Londonderry patrons at the level of support and programs it does today and into the foreseeable future. But it was decided that it was best to put the people of Londonderry decide on a warrant article if they want to increase by one position. It's not included in this budget. We just felt like there's going to be a lot of challenges to this budget already, and we didn't want to add that burden of that additional person. Again, we want to speak to our taxpayers and let them make that decision. And so for today, I ask that you support the Leach Library's proposed budget, and I'm also asking you to provide in the future support for our request on a warrant article for an additional position. Thank you for your time. Please come to our library and see for yourself what a great town asset the Leach Library is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or anything? No.
Jan McLaughlin, 38 Rainbow Drive. I've lived in town for over 30 years. Probably it's almost close to 40. And my son and his family now live in Londonderry as well. He's returned to Londonderry because he wanted his kids to grow up here. And, they're a very technologically consumed family. They all have digital things. I can remember a picture of my granddaughter at 13 or 14 months holding the iPad or whatever she was working with, the Kindle Fire, with 1 foot, 1 hand, and operating the little creatures around the things at that age. So why supporting the library? Well, my grandkids are so excited about the library here. They're avid readers, and I was out to dinner with them last night, and their father, and what they were talking about plans for the weekend. He says, it's been a couple weeks since we've been to the library, and those kids just glowed that they were going to go to the library today. And one of them said, I'm not sure where my books are. And he says, I've got the books. We know where the books are. It's okay. And even though they're very involved with their technology, the library is an important place for them to go. And having the staffing, and I've been there on some Saturdays with them, and it can be really crazy. There could be 20 kids plus their parents wandering around trying to find books, and it's hard for one staff person to be dealing with that when to be able to answer everybody's questions plus check out books, etc. So staffing is really an issue, and it's been an issue for several years. We asked for a position a while back that didn't happen. So I just encourage you to look at our budget. We really made it bare bones this year. It is really what was needed to keep the staff current. But for instance, they were talking about the addition being 30 years old. Well, that means most of our furniture is 30 years old. We've had a number of pieces of furniture break or have to be retired from use. That's going to be a problem if that continues to happen. We don't have very much money in the budget to help replace that. So that was one of the areas that we know is also a need besides personnel. We also have to have places for people to sit that are safe and all of that. When Justin was talking about community and atmosphere, I was surprised that the library wasn't on that list too, because really the library is part of the community and atmosphere of the town. And it has been for a long time, but I can tell you it's much greater impact to the kids now than it was then, which is kind of the opposite of what you'd expect because of the increasing technology. So the fact that they keep evolving and keep going ahead, we've got a big group of teens that come for teen activities. Who would have thought? You'd have teens between 13 and 18 actually going to the library to do things? Cool. So, we don't have any other teen place for them to go, but there's programming and there's a place for them at the library. So I encourage you to look at the budget, ask questions if need be, but please support what we need and also support the children's librarian that they'll be asking for and adding it to the budget next time. I heard in the newspaper that there might be extra revenue that could pay for additional positions, and we do need a position. So if there happens to be extra revenue sitting around, maybe the children's librarian could come on a little sooner. But anyway, that's just a thought. But thank you very much, and I appreciate your support of the library up to this point. Thank you.
So Jan, I didn't mean to leave you guys off in a bad way. All the community stuff you guys do, you don't draw on the other departments in order to do it. So
all right.
That was more the emphasis on that was
okay.
All this stuff, it draws on police, it draws on fire, draws on DPW.
Well, they do help us, put the tables that were the tables that we bought.
Tables,
We bought
right.
picnic tables for the kids. Kids needed to have a place where they could eat food. So we didn't want that in the library. So we actually purchased the trustees purchased some picnic tables that were assembled by the DPW, and got placed so that people, including staff, but including the community, have a place to sit. So there's actually a place outside where people from here can also go and sit outside when have their lunch or just enjoy a beautiful day like today. So it's okay. I know you weren't just trying to.
We're not paying them overtime to do that. They're doing it during the day, and
Well, and the senior center wasn't there either, so we won't get there. I'm here for the library today, but anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Any questions from the council or the budget committee?
I just have one. Given it feels like we have a little bit of momentum from people in Londonderry wanting to fully support our public departments, fire department, police department, library, public works, things like that. And you said you guys are surviving, not thriving. I would love to sort of see what thriving looks like budgetary-wise. If you have, let's say, 15 chairs that need to be replaced, you're like, we really don't feel like we can ask for that this year. This might be something we have to do down the line. I'd really kind of love to see, and then I'm going to ask this of all the departments, what thriving actually looks like. If you didn't have to give up training, if you didn't have to, do those sorts of things, what would thriving look like? And actually, try to right-size some of these budgets so we can actually support the people who help and do things in our town appropriately. So I'd love to see what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
They're a separate form of government. I think you actually have to ask them specifically what you want, just not what thriving is. Are you asking them to add $100,000, and what is that for? I think you got to give them a little bit more direction.
Yes, exactly. So if we were to increase your budget by, let's say, $100,000, what would that go towards? If you've given up training or, not gone to conferences or things in the past that would have actually really been helpful, but you don't have the budget for it, but now you want to add those to the budget, what would that look like? So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, absolutely.
I would just like to say, even if it says so in the paper, I don't think when we're looking at these budgets, we have a lot of money sitting around.
What do you mean, Sean?
Well, the other thing, when we're talking about surviving versus thriving, and I guess this strikes a chord with me a little bit, because I know there's people in this community that are surviving, not thriving. And I really want to, I love everything the library does. I love everything. Our town does a great job. The presentation was wonderful, and I love Oscar. But until we get people in this town off of surviving, and especially in a year like this, I want to be careful of trying to have everything else thrive before our people in Londonderry thrive.
I understand.
So just keep that in mind when we're looking at this.
Yeah, and I'm not asking to, blow up the budget or anything like that, but if we present things that might be more of a nice to have than a must have, at the workshops, that allows us to have a conversation about it as well, right? And so I just want to open this up to having a conversation about it rather than just, I can't ask for that. There's no way. I can't. And to get rid of a little bit of that guilt associated with asking for it so we can open it up to having those conversations. Because I'm sure Erin doesn't put things in the budget all willy-nilly. She thinks really hard about what goes in there and how it gets presented and things like that. But this hopefully, I'm hoping that, thinking about it in that way allows us to, again, have a conversation about what the library may want that they just don't feel like they can ask for, and see if the people who come to the budget workshop meetings are open to adding those things to the budget. So
No, I appreciate open conversation.
Yep.
I do wish more in government to have a little bit of guilt when they come asking, because I think, people are struggling and you should feel a little bit of that. And I'm feeling that today when I look at all these numbers. It's hard to get up in the morning and look at this and go, okay, this is, all the things we need to do and to try to make it work and to try to make it work for everyone. So I'm personally feeling that.
You heard the library say our costs are up 15 to 20%.
Yep.
I've given you demonstration that groceries are up 22%.
Yep.
Not against the conversation, and it's great if we can get to a real number, but wages aren't up 22%.
Yep.
So we have to keep that in mind as well. All for having the conversation.
Okay, but if I can counter that a little bit, I think over the last period of time, our department heads and our town leadership have come to us with budgets that are reasonably lean, and that we haven't over time been accounting for the inflation and all these prices rising that you're pointing out. And so now we've been, over the last couple of years, trying to right-size lines. And that makes sense that we right-size those lines. And it seems like some of the recent history is saying we're not right-sizing those lines fast enough. And again, I am also not arguing for adding, tons of money to the budget, but I want to make sure that we're providing the services that the town is looking for.
In 2009, it cost about $75 million to run the town. It costs $135 million now to run the town, right? And I'm completely against default budgeting. Have been since day one. I think the people who voted for it were wrong, and we should have been right-sizing all along. We're a Dillon Rule state. They've tied our hands. I'm all for having the discussion and putting it on the table, but then people need to understand what the cost of that's going to be. And that's what I think we're all saying is,
Yep.
are people willing to pay $1 more on the tax rate? I think we should find that out.
Yep.
And as if there's anyone else, I'd like to close with this. Just having a measured approach, because I hear the needs, I hear the increase of books or the increase of services, the increase of materials, the increase of this, and as it was highlighted prior, the increase in salaries are different, and having a measured and mindful approach. And I hear
Yep.
what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And I think, as everyone on the council had said, having the discussion is absolutely important. So I'm all set. Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay.
Just one quick one.
Yes.
On the G-Milks, do you now have transparency into where your $50,000 annual contribution is going? Do you understand what it costs to run that G-Milks? So you get a P&L for better, or without a better phrase, of what the total contribution is versus what it costs to maintain that service. So you get an idea of maybe, are you contributing too much? If you are, where do those excess funds go? Or maybe you're not contributing enough and you're eventually going to have to contribute more.
So the membership fee that we pay to GMilks is a formula that GMilks created that it's based on a number of things. Community size, collection size, card members, all of that. So that varies from each library.
Sure.
And so that formula creates a fair approach to payment toward the consortium.
Payment for what, though, I guess, is what is the $50,000 getting you?
So that gets us not only the catalog that you saw there, it gets us the support, the IT support of that catalog. So we don't have to turn to our town IT for that support, which in the past we had to because that catalog didn't have any support. So it gets us that catalog, the IT support. It also gets us the cloud library. It gets us the delivery service to and from the library. So that van service, the staffing related to that. What am I missing? Those are
And are you
the
able
big
to see,
ticket
at
items.
the end of the first year, you're going to be able to say, okay, I got $50,000 quantifiable in services?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, we've only been on day 6 right now. So
I mean, was there an agreement in place? Do you know going in that I'm going to see, if it's on average $50,000 of the 14 or so libraries, that's $750,000.
Mm-hmm.
Do I see that this consortium spent $750,000?
I believe so. The data from the consortium puts together a financial document, if you will, for better lack of words, related to all of that.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
That'd be good to see next year.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Jan McLaughlin again. I just wanted to say that when we were going over the numbers on the 23rd, those people that were struggling were part of our discussion. We cut some items that the staff really wanted, and we struggled over several others because we do realize that there are people struggling in town. But our charge as trustees is to support the programs and the needs of the library, and so that's why there is an increase and why we're still asking for an additional person. But there are things, for instance, Justin was talking about $20,000 is about 4 cents. Well, $20,000 would 4 cents on the budget when he was
Several years.
Several years ago, okay.
That was
Okay.
$200,000.
Whatever the, okay, but, you know, if you talk about the cost of the chairs that need to be replaced or something like that, gee, you know, that same $20,000 that might only, I don't know, impact however much of the individual taxpayers could replace some of those things before they fall apart, so that we don't risk children getting hurt. So those people were in our minds, and they are in our minds all the time. And Aaron and Donna and the rest of the staff are thinking about ways that they can reach out to those people that need services from the library that are underserved. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah.
All right.
Wait.
I'll be brief. Yeah.
Wait, can I
Please.
chime in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So 200,000
Not
was
20,000.
Yeah, 20,000 is 0.003.
Okay. Jason.
Yeah, I actually think that you guys presented the budget in a nice way. And, you know, obviously we're having a conversation about extra things that we can do with the extra position. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing else from the Council of the Budget Committee, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you again.
And for the trustees for coming in as well. So as we transition to the rec, I'd just like make a note that you know, we're going to try to continue to stay on schedule as best as we can. I encourage the dialogue. I appreciate the conversation between the council and the budget committee and the questions asked. Feel free to get up. We're not going to have a break necessarily, but just want to allow everyone to get up if they need, and we'll continue. So with that, Mr. Salidas. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for inviting me to the party.
If we can
I
just keep
appreciate
your
it.
bat down in the back, please, so we can hear the presenters.
All right, settle down back there. Okay, the rec budget is increasing.
Real quick, Art Salidas.
Art Salidas, Director of Recreation.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Our rec budget is increasing, and the reasons for this, it's a fairly simple one. We have an aging system. West Road opened in 2002. It's 22 years ago it opened up. This past year, we've had 6 breaks in the irrigation. We also had to replace the control panel. That was like $12,000 because the control panel was only supposed to last about 10 years, and it lasted over 20. The 6 breaks cost us money. We do it ourselves. We are lucky, very fortunate to have somebody on the rec commission, Kevin Foley, who can kind of fix, one of those guys that can fix anything. And my rough estimate is he saved us in the last 3 years anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 from having to go out and fix things. The playground is 16 years old, and we had problems last year, and we were able to do that. Our tennis court hasn't been resurfaced. It's not up. I have not put that on. It should be resurfaced, but we've put that on the back burner. It hasn't been resurfaced in 8 years. The numbers are climbing for baseball, softball, and for soccer. Soccer now has 900 kids playing. If you look at the West Road fields, I get calls anywhere from 20 to 50 a year of people from out of town wanting to use our fields. I ask them why. Well, your fields are great. Yeah, our fields are great because we limit it to people in town. We want to restripe the lines on the parking lot. It cost us last time we did it 6 years ago about $3,500. I figure it's going to be about $5,000. School district does their lines every year. We use a little bit better paint, and it lasts us 6+ years. So we are an aging system. And I'm reminded of the old Fram commercial when the guy holds the oil filter and says, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. If you have a car and you don't change the oil regularly, you're limiting that, and it's going to cost you big bucks at the end. So we're asking for more money to try to maintain what we have. one time somebody called me cheap, and I told my wife that, and my wife said, well, you are. And I'm really cheap when it comes to spending town money. It's not my money. If it were my money and I had it, I would spend it on recreation or whatever, but it's not my money. It's the town's money. I would remind you that the maintenance at West Road, when we first opened up the first year, we had a service cutting the grass, and the bill was over $50,000. Sid Kerr, who was the head of maintenance, came to me and said, you know, if we bought this and this, we could take care of it ourselves. So I figure we're probably saving anywhere from 40 to 50 grand each year by having our guys do the fields, and they're much better. So we are increasing we are increasing our budget, and I've put things off and put things off and put things off. But I think at this point, with the numbers increasing and an aging system, we need to maintain it so that we don't lose it. And Mr. Campo, we've put money in the budget to increase a couple of other things. Now that we have an assistant rec director, we've increased programs. He's done a bang-up job. I have tried to tell him, don't spread yourself too thin, because he's on the go. But that also costs money, and they've been extremely, extremely well received by the town. So we have a lot of kids playing. We have a lot of adults now taking part in the activities, and we need a little more money to do that. Yes.
Are you all set, or?
Yeah.
I do have a quick question, Director Salidas. Can you talk a little bit about the ideas for next year for some of those programs that you just mentioned?
I wish Doug were here, but he's going to, one of the big things is dodgeball with the kids. There was a motion years back to stop dodgeball in a certain school, and the kids, high school, and the kids rebelled, and the parents rebelled, and we have, dodgeball's probably number one. He started a track program. He's trying to do a Thanksgiving Day flag football tournament. There's the hope that we can go and change the summer program so there's not that release time at noon. And Doug did a survey with the parents, and it's overwhelming that they would like that. So I think it's better to serve the kids rather than the parents going back and forth. That's what they would like.
Okay.
And other ideas that he'll come up with, it's like never ending, because somebody expresses, he'll try it. So.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the Council or Budget Committee?
Art, for your maintenance of equipment and fields and everything, do you feel that what you put in here is appropriate, or do you really need more?
It's kind of asking me, like, if I go to a buffet for a lunch, do you want some more? I'd love some more, but
it's not about that you put in here. That's why I'm like.
I think it's reasonable. I think we can get by, and basically that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to.
And I don't want you to get by.
To get by, and I think we'll be. I think we'll be okay with this. And one of the things I've asked for a couple more hours for one of our workers so that they can help with the repairs that we do. Because this year between West Road and Laffer, we've changed between 50 sprinkler heads because they go over time. And to do that, you got to dig them up, and it takes time. And we, along with an aging system, we have an aging work crew because we're all part-time and we're all semi-retired, and it just takes more. So we need, if you're fixing 50 a year, it takes an incredible amount of time. So I think if we get what we've asked for, we will be fine, and we'll make it fine. And our volunteers, please be reminded that, example, up at Laffer, there's a dugout that is broken, and it needs to be fixed.
Can you come before us another time and present everything that needs to be fixed, and everything that really your department would actually like to spend money on capital-wise, so that we can actually really get a real idea. Because
We
we're
could do
seeing
that.
capital reserve funding of 20 grand from the warrant articles, then within the budget, there's other money for maintenance, but I think for us to actually understand what really needs to be done, we need to actually see it.
Yeah, I can do that because the tennis courts and the basketball court should be redone, but that is a lot of money and they're usable now.
Well, we need to.
So we can do that.
Yeah. We need to actually see what could be done for next year, or what do we want to actually
Well,
plan for following years.
the
But
f-
without
in
us
the
actually
fall,
seeing the numbers
absolutely.
or plans,
Absolutely.
it's hard for us to say yes or no.
Yep. But we're trying to hold the lid on, and we're trying to fix what we need to fix. We're not like saying, my wife and I went to Exeter yesterday to watch a football game. Bad ending, but good game. And we walked by the tennis courts, and she said, Jesus, tennis courts look really nice. How come yours don't look so nice? I said, well, it's a lot of money, and they're serviceable. Should they be fixed? Yeah, but like everybody else has said, we've got people in town that are struggling. I don't, with good conscience, say, we need those tennis courts have to be done. No, they don't. They should be done, but they don't have to be.
You are also one of our smallest budgets within the town.
Yes.
So I think,
So let me ask Justin a question. Justin, can we fix recreational things under expendable maintenance trust?
It depends on what it is.
So if I wanted to, they're facilities, we own them. Can we fix basketball courts under expendable maintenance trust?
I'll have to take a closer look, but I would believe that you may be able to.
So we own the tennis courts.
Yep.
Can we fix those under expendable maintenance trust?
Again, I'd have to look closer into it, but I believe you would be able to.
So we could classify them under facilities, maybe.
maybe.
Like I said, I'd have to look more into it, but I would believe that we may be able to.
Because we maintain all our buildings. We maintain everything else we have. But it appears from the conversation is that we've depended on a bunch of nice volunteers to maintain something we own. That's what it sounds like.
So potentially that is the way that it sounds. I would agree. However, you have to keep in mind, you look at West Road and essentially the organization that uses it assists in maintaining it. So while they're volunteers, it's...
I'm asking about the fields.
So if we go to the tennis courts, you are correct in that aspect. One of the tennis courts you have to keep in mind was paid for through a grant, so we have to maintain what that obligation is to the grant.
Spirit of the grant.
Yes.
So we have a, whatever
And
we
then
call
it
down
also
there,
becomes the
skate park
question
down
of
there
is
that we did
the
by warrant article.
is the tennis courts, though they're ours, are they actually ours because of the grant aspect?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'd have
Grant's
to
about
look.
30
I'd have
years
to
old.
look.
I'm betting they're ours.
I'd have to look closer into it, but I would believe that we potentially could.
If you could look into that and have that ready for our next workshop.
Yep.
That'd be appreciated. Thank you.
And as well, like the dugouts that he had mentioned, would those technically fall under us as well?
That's where it gets even more.
Nappy actually built
But if
them.
we own them now,
That's where it gets even more dicey because LAFA takes care of a majority of the LAFA fields, despite the town owning them. It is actually LAFA that
Maintains.
It's not like
has them.
Stello Stadium where you replace the turf and everything else. These organizations were put together as nonprofits, and there's a fine line on grounds. The reason I talked about the basketball courts and about the tennis courts is they're not part of LAFA.
Correct.
okay.
They're not part of LISA. Now, so one piece at a time, right?
Of course.
I mean, what we'd love to do is turf a lot of fields, but that's big money.
Oh, yeah,
that's,
of course.
$1.5 million to turf a field.
And like I said,
That's to fix their turf,
Not new.
not new. New is probably
So 5
More.
years ago,
Yeah.
Trinity spent $1.5 million to do their facility up there.
yep.
So, like I said, I'll have to take a closer look at exactly how the expendable maintenance is worded, because the wording on that will be very instrumental in determining that. Whether it's facilities or it gets more detailed, that's where it'll actually depend on how it's worded. I'm thinking because we're able to use it for various other items such as winter maintenance for the buildings, it should fall in, but I can't guarantee that either way at this point without looking into it further.
Ted, my reasoning is that we've explained the expendable maintenance trust to the voters. They understand what it is.
Oh, yes.
So that we should be actually using it for what its purpose is.
Agreed.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you'll have that. Thank you, Justin, for getting that prepared for next. Anything else for, yeah, please.
So salaries are up 10%. You mentioned extra hours for someone. Is that what accounts for some of
Yes.
that?
So the additional hours for the individual as well as the rec program this year grew significantly bigger.
Yeah.
So an additional counselor was added last year that is absorbed through this year's budget, but will be why you're seeing it there.
Well, it looks like it was absorbed in the 25 budget. right?
Correct.
So,
So 25 budget, you don't have the actuals yet because that's
right.
what we're
So
currently
I'm-
in.
So there's a
Right.
10% increase from the 25 budget to the proposed 26 budget.
Correct.
I'm guessing, aside from increases, that's additional hours for
Yes.
this individual.
As well as the additional rec counselor.
I'm still not understanding how that,
So they added another counselor.
So we added, this year, we added another counselor for the rec program.
for 26.
No, for 25.
For the 25 rec program that happened in July,
Yep.
we added an additional counselor because of the amount of people we had. For safety reasons, we needed an additional counselor there.
That additional person is in the 25 budget.
They are not.
Okay.
Are they in the 26 budget?
They are in the 26.
Okay.
Got it, okay.
So that, along with the additional hours, is why you're seeing that bump up as much as it is.
So the additional counselor and the additional hours,
Yep.
those automatically get added to the default?
Because we're using them now, I did include them in the default. If you'd like, I can remove them out.
Nope, I'm
But
just trying to get clear.
where we've not hired, but we hired them in July for the additional counselor, the assumption is we will need it next year as well.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And the other hours, he's currently, actually, are they still working or are they all done now? Either way.
They're closed.
If they're not all done now, they will be shortly, but he is working them now because of, as Art mentioned, we have all these things going on.
Makes much more sense now, thank you.
We charge for like the rec programs and stuff.
The summer program, yes, and there is a charge for the programs that Doug is running.
Okay.
So with the rec program as well, Art, Doug, myself, Sarah have been talking about potentially moving that over to the revolving fund. That way it comes completely off of the taxpayers and focuses on those that are fully using it. The problem is ensuring that it's able to sustain itself at that level. As Art mentioned, they're looking at potentially having it go throughout the entire day and not having people have to come pick them up and take them home. So our hope is this year, if we do that, we'll be able to say next year, all these are gone, they're going to the revolving fund. So those expenses will move over there instead of here.
So you're talking about that for 27?
Yes. Unless I'm working with Art and Doug, and if they start getting more and more confident, we can possibly look at it for 26, but it's one of those, we need to make sure that it is going to be able to sustain itself.
Anything from the, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, why do you think the water budget's gonna come in $2,000 lower, or 2166?
That's just from the last few years. And it also depends on Mother Nature. Some years it's been way down because it rained all the time. Other years it's been up.
Because of drought.
Yeah.
That's
we just tried
exactly-
to average it out, and things were put to where they might
Okay.
look more appropriate.
I'm all set. What is the department special equipment for 10 grand?
So that is one of my new accounts this year. As we're all aware, departments have all different specialized needs. So I created this account so each department would be able to start potentially looking at moving things to this. In this example, we're looking at the aging playground equipment. But if I put playground equipment in there, no matter what department it's in, that number will be playground equipment. So it doesn't make sense to have playground equipment in police. So I did.
You can be a bit more vague.
What?
You can be vague in what you can use it for.
Exactly. So that in talking with Art and Doug, it was playground equipment, and I believe the picnic tables are falling apart as well.
Yes.
So between those two is why we put the 10,000 in there. And then we're speaking, I say we, Doug and Art, are looking at potentially trying to start replacing things in advance before they start getting to that level.
Awesome.
And this gives them the potential ability to do that within the budget where, as you mentioned, they're one of the smaller budgets. They don't, when something breaks, especially if it happens July, August, their budget is pretty much done for the entire year.
Instead of keep on putting it to the warrant.
Correct. So the warrant, the capital reserve, you have to keep in mind, is for recreation, maintenance of vehicles, and purchasing vehicles, I believe, or leasing vehicles. So by vehicles, it also includes mowers and things of that nature, because when one of their mowers breaks, that's about 8,000, was it?
Used to be.
12,000.
Yeah.
Which, again, in their budget, they're not able to absorb. So we're looking at it, and the
That
reason
rate
for the
almost
bump
seems like
up.
the 20 grand in the warrant article might not be enough.
So right now, there is funding in it, and my understanding is nothing is anticipated to break within the next year or two.
That's what you think?
But it's in there so we can do one of them. The hope is to maintain a level to be able to fix the emergency situation as well as replace the equipment that is starting to fail. So that way we're not spending money fixing it when it's just going to break again. Because it's, you can ask Art and you can go down and probably see them, that the mowers they're not young, is the best way to put it, other than the one that we just recently purchased.
Well, then, I guess at that rate, if I can task Art with, what would it be that you could accomplish within that 20 grand? Or what would it be if you accomplished with another 20 on top of that?
You're going to ask me as rec director, I say, yeah, we'd love it. If you're going to ask me as being reasonable with the tax situation, we can get by. Next year, maybe more. I think we're in pretty good shape. We do maintain our stuff. If I look at our mower, the life of our mowers and the life of our stuff compared to other groups, our stuff will last 15, 20 years because we maintain it. Other people, it's going to last 5 or 6 because they beat the snot out of it. So we maintain it and take care of it. So I think we're okay with where we are.
Okay, I just want you to maybe think about it in the back of your mind if, you know.
No, I think I think we also have to be reasonable as.
Of course.
So that'll bring the balance to about 30,000 in that account. And if a mower breaks or something happens, it's about 12 to replace that. You'll still have money in there for something else.
So it's not like we're starting off from
It's
zero.
not at zero.
Okay.
This 20,000 gives us the cushion where if everything remains as is, hopefully we won't need to add to it next year.
Gotcha.
It's just right now, it is at the point of, should one of these break down beyond repair, we're now drawing on that as well as the operating budget to fix it. This gives us that kind of emergency situation.
Sounds good.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to say thanks, Art, for taking care of this, managing the budget, and doing your best. I trust you with my wallet.
Not me, Art, I know.
John Farrell doesn't. But it's empty. I trust you with my wallet, but it's empty anyway. But I'd like to thank all of you guys for doing what you do, working tirelessly. I also like to thank DPW and ask you guys if you want to go up to the Nelson Road area and look what the DPW did by the tennis courts and how great it looks, and they've helped us immensely. So.
Art, I'll have one last question, and maybe Doug can come to us at some point for this other question of, is there funding that he would want to have for future recreational programs that, you know, we don't have before us right now? Whether it be trips or it would be something else in town, something that, you know, a grand idea that he may have.
Yep, I'll talk to Doug about it, and he and I can sit, we'll figure it out, and.
So I don't want to speak for Doug here, and he can come in and give it a lot more detail. But the establishing of the rec revolving fund was to assist in things such as that. So those that will be going on the trips, they pay a fee that covers the cost of the trips. And that fee then goes towards the cost of the trips, and there's no impact on the taxpayer for that.
Okay. Sounds good. Great.
All right.
Thank you,
very
folks.
much.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Public Works and the Engineering Department presented by Dave Wally and John Trottier. Gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. For being here today.
Quick housekeeping item, just for your convenience. I unlocked the door over here,
Thank
so
you.
you don't have to go around if you need to go out for a minute.
Thank you.
It's the little things.
Gentlemen, who's going first? Mr. Trottier.
Good morning, committee members. My name is John Trottier. I'm the Director of Engineering and Environmental Services for the town of Londonderry. With me this morning is Dave Wally, the Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. We're here this morning to present the budget for fiscal year '26. We'll be presenting the budgets for the following. Under the Engineering and Environmental Services includes the solid waste recycling and sanitary sewer facilities here in the town. And under Public Works, it includes the Highway Department budget for fiscal year '26. This slide in front of you shows our organizational chart. Again, you'll see the Environmental Division is on the left-hand side of the chart is myself. Beneath me is an Assistant Director, the Environmental Engineer, and 2 drop-off center attendants. Unfortunately, Assistant Directors, that position has been vacant for approximately 2.5 years. Under Dave's side, the right-hand side, there's a foreman, 3 assistant foremans, 3 equipment operators, 5 truck driver laborers, and a truck driver laborer. That position is vacant. Also, we have a department assistant who is Donna Lamoli, who's here this evening, this morning. And we have an administrative assistant, Denise Manella, who's not present this morning. Keep thinking it's evening.
It's been a long day already.
I wake up early. 6 hours into my day. Under the Environmental Division, under the solid waste side of things, this division is responsible to oversee and manage the following items: curbside collection of household trash and recycling, the seasonal drop-off center, the household hazardous waste collection day, the waste oil collection program, and the school recycling programs. Just as a reminder, the household hazardous waste collection day is going to be held this month on the 23rd up at the Laffa Fields, as a public service announcement.
Thank you.
Under the Environmental Division, the solid waste and recycling, this is the single largest vendor contract in the town of Londonderry. You're gonna see my numbers vary, again, as Ted had noticed. The 2.954,482 number is a little different than what the finance department's spreadsheets indicate. Again, it was the difference is the adjustment for some employee compensations. So, just so that we're all on the same page.
So that goes back to, as I mentioned with the library, the life and workers' comp. We didn't get those numbers till middle of last week, I believe, and essentially when we met with the departments, we went with what we had last year, which is why you're going to see those slight differences from, I say slight, workers' comp for DPW, police and fire are a little bit larger than everyone else because of the nature of them, but those are the reasons for the differences.
Do you have those numbers, Justin?
They're in the budget that you have in front of you right now.
Thank you.
So John, when we started this program, it's been almost 15 years, right?
Yes.
We were somewhere around 1.3, 1.4.
I believe so, yeah.
So now we're going to be at 2.9.
Correct.
So double what it used to cost us.
Yes.
But we're still probably running somewhere around $250 a household?
I'll have, I have some
Gonna
of
have that?
those statistics.
Okay, I'm
John.
sorry to steal your thunder.
Nope, that's all right.
But, so just in making my point, so we're double what we were when we started this program,
How long ago?
Yep.
15 years ago.
Thank you.
This particular, in this delta adjustment for the employee compensation on solid waste and recycling is only $47. So between my number and what they'll see in the book. This slide illustrates 16 line items of the solid waste budget. Majority of these costs are associated with the solid waste operations, salaries, benefits, office supplies, certifications required for town employees. I'd like to just draw your attention to 2 line items that I'll discuss further. That being the 5th item down, the the waste collection services of $2.05 million and the recycling services of $855,000. So what those costs entail, for fiscal year '26, the solid waste collection curbside, we're budgeting $869,000. That's a 5% increase from our '25 budget. That is per our contract, and what we also do is we guesstimate that there's gonna be an additional 120 new homes. Under the solid waste tonnage, we estimate 9,000 tons. We're budgeting a $854,000 budget. That again represents a 5% increase to disposal. Obviously, the quantity is variable. We also include a fuel adjustment of $46,000. That is per our contract. We include $30,000 for our carts. That costs cover any new homes, replacement of the carts. Again, some of those carts are pushing 15 years in age. Some of them have been on the street for quite some time. We're carrying $46,000 for the household hazardous waste collection. We're carrying $5,200 for our sharps disposal, and we're including $201,000 in our drop-off center. That drop-off center number has increased about $30,000. Our contracts are gonna be up come the end of the season, so we anticipate, we'll have to put those out to bid, but we certainly anticipate some increases in those costs.
Hold on, John, hold on.
Yeah.
Time out. Let's address some technical difficulties here. Okay. There we go. Well, that one's on, though. It's powering up, hold on.
What happened? They just like went blast up for 2 seconds. We were trying, I know, we were trying to. Okay.
Oh, they're all
Hey,
fixed. All right.
you just come in the room and there you go.
We're done. We're up. Have a great day.
Sure. We're secure. Oh, no, too far. Back, please, thank you. Nope. There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. On the recycling side of things, curbside for fiscal year '26, we're budgeting $624,000. That includes the 5% increase per our contract and the additional 120 new homes that we project to happen. That cost includes the collection and the transportation of that material. The recycling tonnage, we're estimating 2,700 tons. Obviously, the tonnage is variable, and the 5% increase in the 120 new homes. And lastly, per our contract, we also include the $25,000 for our fuel adjustment, for a total of $855,000. So this is up 5%. Again, both of them basically per our contract. So as John had indicated, what does that $2.9 million buy us? Again, just some interesting statistics. This is the most visible service. The stops are made at every residence in the town at least once a week and twice every other week. The current contract started in 2016 and is the largest scope of trash and recycling services ever performed by a contractor in the town. We have approximately 18,000 carts that have been deployed throughout the town. We have 165 dumpsters and carts that are emptied each week at all the municipal facilities, including the schools. We have over 145 dumpsters and carts that are emptied each week at any of the condos and apartment complexes. For the cart collection, it takes 3 trucks to run 5 daily routes every week, and 1 additional truck that runs throughout the week to empty the dumpsters. So since the current contract collection began in July of 2016, 673 new single-family homes have been added by the end of the year of fiscal year '24.
From when we started?
From
2016.
From
Thank you.
2016. We have 456 residents in multifamily complexes requiring dumpster services have been added during that time frame. Annual trash tonnage has increased by 700 tons to approximately 8,900 tons at the end of fiscal year '24. And our recycling tonnage is approximately 2,600 tons at the end of fiscal year '24. So the projected current fiscal year '25 trash and recycling cost per household is $17.85 per month, or $4.12 per week. The projected fiscal year '26 trash and recycling costs per household for fiscal year '26, again, is $18.75 per month, or $4.33 per week. That's what John was getting at. We do know that fiscal year '27, there will be a significant increase in the costs per our contract, and we've started this discussion with the finance department. But again, it's a significant increase. But again, when we project what the household costs per month will be for fiscal year '27, again, this is in the future, but wanted to put it out there, is $22.50 per month, or $5.19 per week. So it'll go up about a buck, less than a buck.
So John, if we were using private contractors, I mean, I remember the number for private contractors 20 years ago being $25 a month. Private contractors, what do you think they're charging now? It's
$30
$50,
a month?
$75 a month?
I pay $39 a month.
So $39 a month. So this is the best deal in town.
It's definitely a very good deal. And I think when we start looking at, do we open the contract up, we're gonna see more than a 20% increase, in my opinion, so.
But it'll still be a really good deal comparably.
Yes.
That's
I just,
fine, yeah.
while we were
Agreed.
talking about this, I texted my parents who live in Derry. They pay for trash pickup. They pay approximately $32 a month for trash pickup. So we're still beating that. Because Derry does not have public trash pickup. You have to bring it to the dump, or you pay a third-party company to do it, so,
Correct.
yep.
But the good news, John, is you've got a profit center over on West Road, right?
Wish we could say that.
Still another great deal in town.
Yeah, it still is. Yep. So,
Thank you for those numbers.
yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Under the Environmental Division, the sanitary sewer portion of our budget, again, for fiscal year '26, as I indicated, the number here is wrong. It should be $5,872,073. In my preparation for this slide, I totally forgot the employee end of things, so it was my fault on that one. So that 181,000, that's on me. Again, I do want to remind everyone, as far as the sanitary sewer, this budget is paid for by the users. It does not impact the tax rate whatsoever. Under the sewer budget contractual items, again, this slide, the majority of the slide shows personnel costs such as salaries, benefits, et cetera. The next slide, these are non-contractual items. And if I can just draw your attention to 3 particular items. The first line item, sewer usage services of $1.6 million. These are the costs for accepting and treating the town of Londonderry's wastewater at both Manchester and the Derry wastewater treatment facility. So again, we have intermunicipal agreements. That's where our wastewater is ultimately treated. So that's what the $1.6 million
represents.
So, John, we're not really sending any more to Derry. Everything's going to Manchester now?
No, we still send some to dairy.
Well, I'm saying we're not increasing that.
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
The second line item would be under sewer management services of $440,000. Those costs will cover our consultant costs to perform general engineering services, such as overseeing the inspection and cleaning and repairs of our facilities, preparation of any of our facilities plan, any pipeline analysis that needs to be performed, as well as doing any sewer rate analysis.
John, could you talk a little bit about what happens when we have a break? I mean, I've been out there, I've seen it. I don't think a lot of people actually understand what happens.
Yep.
Could you talk a little bit about the urgency and what happens?
Well, again, fortunately, we have a good relationship with a fairly large contractor here in town, and again, when a break like that happens, whether it's a force main or hopefully just a gravity line, it's all hands on deck. Again, if it's a force main, we have to divert, go back to the pump station, shut down the pump station. Then we have a good contractor here in town, as well as our vendor that does our preventive maintenance. He has enough connections that we end up having to get pump trucks, suck out the waste from the wet well and bring it back up to the north end of town. Typically, it's unfortunately, it's been the north end of town, dump it into the gravity system, and then like I say, it's all hands on deck. What happened with this line?
So I've seen as many as a half a dozen,
honey wagons.
There at a time while the hole is being dug, and I've seen this take up to 36 hours, and it's almost nonstop.
Correct. It is nonstop. It is pretty critical.
I just think people need to understand what happens when this happens.
To have a sanitary.
So in other words, your services at your home don't change with what they're doing.
And the
Yeah.
way they're doing it.
Right.
Correct.
Where does that money come from when we have a problem like that?
From this budget.
From this sewer repairs and maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you ever find out about it, it is something to see. I mean, there's usually, I've seen up to 10 people in the hole.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like you say, a half dozen honey wagons. And again, fortunately, Sherburne, our vendor, they have a good relationship with a number of vendors as well, that they can get all hands on deck. So the last item would be, again, the sewer repairs and maintenance of $261,000. That, again, it covers any vendor costs for weekly preventive maintenance visits, any meter calibration, operations of our SCADA system. That's our communication between the pump station and our environmental engineer, and any wet well cleaning, emergency and non-emergency repairs of the sanitary sewer system. The next slide will continue with some non-contractual items. The only one I would point to would be the sewer machinery and equipment, the $549,000. Again, those costs, have increased by $5,000 approximately. And those reflect the town of Londonderry's share of any upgrades at the Manchester wastewater treatment facility per our intermunicipal agreement, or any additional purchasing of additional capacity at our dairy wastewater treatment, at the dairy wastewater treatment facility. So just to help you understand, again, so the town of Londonderry is responsible for 10.16% of any of the improvements that happens in Manchester at their wastewater treatment facility. So again, over the years, it's pretty corrosive atmosphere, environment. It really eats away at the equipment out there, generators, scrubbers, their incinerator, and we're on the hook for 10% of any of those improvements. The town of Londonderry, town of Bedford, town of Goffstown, and the city of Manchester are in that IMA. So that's always an interesting place to go take a look at too, John, again, to see the scrubbers and the aeration, the clarifiers, and see all everything happening. We're all part of it. So just some interesting facts on our sanitary sewer system here in town. The town owns
We maintain, we operate the sewers collection and transmission system. We have 43 miles of sewer. We have over 800 manholes. We have 6 pumping stations. We have $60 million in assets. It takes about $2.6 million per year to operate. We have Bob Carey is our environmental engineer, and Bob is on call for 24/7. Our responsibility is to coordinate construction of replacement of new town-owned sewer collection and transmission systems. We administer and enforce industrial pretreatment programs for 75 industrial sewer accounts that require permitting and periodic inspection, and it's one of the largest programs in the state of New Hampshire based on flow to the sewer. Some of our big industries is Coca-Cola at Exit 5, Granite Ridge, the power plant in the northwest corner of town. And obviously, we have a lot of Newcastle, Alcumet. They're some of our bigger
Users?
military, yeah. Again, they need to test their wastewater, making sure that it meets the discharge limits.
John, can you talk a little bit about the new lines that are coming in at Woodmont?
Yeah, so again, Woodmont will be a pump station that'll be constructed just east of the intersection of Gilchrist and Pillsbury Road, back down in that hollow. So from that pump station, Woodmont will be required to pump some of their waste from the south of Pillsbury up to our pump station. Some of their stuff north of Pillsbury will be able to flow gravity into ours.
And where's that flow going?
Then what we'll do is we're gonna pump from our pumps, we're calling it the Pillsbury Road Pump Station. It'll pump to the west up Pillsbury Road and continue up Hardy Road, all the way to Bancroft, where from Bancroft it'll flow westerly down Bancroft, and that'll flow gravity and ultimately be treated in Manchester.
Okay.
So that's the scoop with that one,
And
which is that $2.6 million. That's part of that treatment.
So how many miles are we, remember, Derry's across the street and everything, we're not sending anything else there. How many miles are we sending flow to Manchester from Woodmont? 10, 15 miles?
About that, yep. So pump from Pillsbury to Plaza 28 pump station, and then Plaza 28 pumps up to Mammoth Road.
I just want people to understand the depth of what's happening.
I'm sorry?
I want people to understand the depth of what's happening.
I appreciate that.
And Woodmont also created, or is in the process of finalizing their construction for their pump station as well?
No, it is in design,
Okay,
but
thank you.
it's not been completed.
Yep.
One last item too, is again, in the past 11 years, there's been 419 new sewer accounts have been added, representing a 30% increase in the number of sewer accounts now serving 3,267 residences and businesses. So our first quarter of fiscal year 14, total sewer accounts was 1,436. In our first quarter of fiscal year 25, the total sewer accounts was 1,855 accounts. So we do service quite a few homes and single-family residents as well as businesses. We'll get back into the Highway Division fiscal year 26 budget. This slide here says 5.24. Again, the true number is 5,239,365, an increase of approximately 6.3%. Next slide, again, the town of Londonderry, what does that $5.2 million, what is it used for? It's used to maintain 191 miles of road, 7 bridges, approximately 4,800 drainage structures, catch basins, outlet structures, end sections, head walls, and approximately 63 miles of drainage pipe that exist here in the town. Next slide indicates contractual items, representing about $2 million, again, in contractual items.
How many employees do you have now in the highway department?
13.
13. How long does it take you to do a loop for plowing?
On a good day, 4, on a tough storm, about 6.
If you had 2 more employees, what would that do for you?
Well, yeah, a lot of what I'm going to get into discussing is going to kind of address that because it's a complicated answer, but obviously it would
can wait.
help. It would help. But yeah, we're going to get into that discussion.
Stealing all our thunder, John.
Just asking questions, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
If you want me not to, abdicate for you, I won't.
No, it's not the case, not at all. Yep, the next line item, the next slide, this represents 13 lines, 13 items that illustrate the costs associated with the highway budget. As you see, we're holding line on 10 line items, requesting increase to electric line and introducing 2 new lines, those being the seminar, workshops, conference, as well as the work zone safety services, and Dave will elaborate on those 2. The next sheet, or next page, again, this indicates 12 line items that reflect costs associated with the highway budget. On this page, we're holding the line on 9 items. And you'll see there's increases to 3 lines, that being the department supplies, snow removal services, and the hydrant services. So before I go any further, I can tell you, I can address the hydrant services. With the hydrant services, as you see, the Manchester Water Works, there's an increase of 3%, and the Pennachuck is an increase of 7%. So again, these are numbers that both those utilities have informed us that we can foresee those increases. Remember, people, there's a lot of water that's being constructed here in the town of Londonderry. You say that, Pennachuck owns that, but we're responsible for those fire hydrants that are out there. So if you recall, so in my discussions with Pennachuck, the initial is about 3.5% increase, but knowing what's coming up, because I can pin them, I say, what's gonna happen when we come down High Range Road? What's gonna happen when we come north off of Old Nashua, up Parmenter, and up, coming to the south end of heading up. So that's why that number, I am a conservative person, if you don't know me, and I'd rather give you the worst number, because I'm either a hero or a zero, in my opinion. So that, I can answer that question. I'll let Dave elaborate on the others.
Real quick, while you're speaking about water, who will the water be coming from with the pipeline down High Range Road? Is it Manchester or Pennachuck?
Down High Range, the source of the water coming from the north is Manchester.
Okay, good. I know a lot of people are concerned about the price differential between Manchester Water and Pennachuck.
So,
There
well,
is some
again,
involvement of Pennachuck from a contractual standpoint.
right, so,
Okay.
so don't forget though, Ted, you're saying where's the source of the water? The
Yeah.
source of the water is the Massabesic Lake.
Right.
So the source is Manchester, but Pennachuck will own the system.
Well, actually, we'll own the system. They'll be our vendor.
Again,
I guess it depends on what, people, I think, more concerned about what rate will they be paying, because they know that the rate from Pennachuck is higher than Manchester.
Well, the whole thing is really complicated from the standpoint of the PUC and everything else. There are systems here in town, but because of, granting and because of other mechanisms of funding, if we wanted to create our own water division,
Yes.
there's ways to do that, and it wouldn't be as expensive as buying Pennachuck out. It's a formula that is very complex.
Of course.
So you'd be looking at adding a lot of employees, and it would work a lot like the sewer system works, where it would be user paid.
Right, I guess I'm just looking at the simplicity of our system that we have right now, where people know that if they're on Pennachuck, they pay more on a rate per gallon compared to Manchester Water Works.
That's
what
true,
I'm
and
trying to
that's
get at.
not gonna change. I mean, if Pennachuck's the vendor, you're gonna pay whatever Pennachuck's rates are. And if Manchester Waterworks is the vendor, you're gonna pay whatever their rates are.
So it's based on the vendor, not where the water source is coming from then?
Right, the source is Massabesic Lake. It's also number of aquifers. It depends on where they're tying in. It's a very, I'm learning a lot about it. but it's a very, being involved in the Water Council now.
Yeah.
But it's a complex formula.
Okay.
And not easy to figure out. Am I accurate?
You're right.
And certainly not a question I'm looking for him to answer today, but we're gonna have to start looking at some point, the side streets to build off of High Range, because this pipeline will be going down High Range, not money for the side streets. So something to keep in our back of our mind.
Again, another very complex formula about
is.
how you get there. It depends on how you engage with your vendor. It depends on whether you have participation through bonds. It's like a whole nother 3-hour conversation.
Of course,
that I don't think Dave wants me to have right now.
No, that's why I'm just saying we should keep in the back of our minds.
He's
right
having me
now.
looking right at you, Dave. I'm just kidding around.
Thanks, John.
I'm looking for a way out here, Dave. Help me out.
Water goes down Dave Street. Dave doesn't need to worry about water.
So if you're looking for a way out, I can address that. You'll notice in the slide he said seminars and workshops are where the CDL training is. I had adjusted that, so if you look at the line 42, sorry, give me 1 second. 4241-001, it is labeled as CDL training. And back to DPW.
Thanks, Justin.
You're welcome. No. Yeah, exactly, right there. Thank you. Yeah, as it's noted in the comments there, that line is for CDL training. So I'm going to have a general overview of the 3 lines that I'm going to talk about, and then I'll get into each one of them specifically. So good morning. Again, my name is Dave Wally. I'm proudly serve as your Director of Public Works and Municipal Facilities. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's not here right now. That's okay. And members of the boards. Thank you. Over the past 3 years, we have remained committed to the vehicle replacement program and made important strides in bringing operational line items more in tune with actual expenditure needs to address years of default lines struggling to keep up with increasing costs in an aging fleet. These important adjustments have certainly helped our department's ability to effectively respond to emergencies with the most reliable equipment possible while having an adequate supply of construction and emergency materials on hand for the operation of the town of Londonderry. This year, we are going to shift our attention to safety, training, and personnel. As we proceed through the budget here, over these 3 line items, we will be discussing a new $8,000 request for training, an additional $15,000 request for snow removal services, and a new $150,000 request for work zone safety services. All 3 components are focused on preserving and protecting our current employees while improving our ability to fill vacancies quickly when they should occur. Our shortcomings in these areas come with a cost. Our staff already works a 45-hour work week, 40 normal hours, and then 5 mandated overtime hours, 1 per day. We do not have mutual aid. We do not have off-duty employees to call in for our staff on leave or when we have unfilled vacancies. The additional workload is displaced onto the existing overburdened workforce. This compromises their safety, their health, and the necessary downtime required from the rigors of the job. The additional line requests are designed to reduce the strain, ease the workload, and help with that fatigue of long hours worked during emergencies, rather than simply expanding our workforce when we are already struggling to fill the current vacancies. Having a safe and well-trained workforce that is prepared while working in the streets and assisting with our emergency operations is paramount and will have a positive effect on the entire community of Londonderry. I'm going to now speak to the $8,000 CDL training line. This new $8,000 training request is being made to assist us with the hiring process. Not unlike all DPWs and DOT across the state, the DPW is struggling to hire individuals who meet the minimum requirement of having a CDLB license at our current rates of $22.12 per hour. I'll just deviate from my prepared statement here, but I don't know if any of you caught recently on WMUR, but the state of New Hampshire is down 30% of their winter workforce. So that will have impacts on communities across the state. But as you know, in town, most of our main thoroughfares are plowed by the state as well. So they're struggling in this area as well. And they've come up with different ways of trying to entice people to get into the work by $5,000 sign-on bonuses and another $5,000 if you make it to the end of the season and what have you. So we're all in this together. There's a lot of municipalities that are really struggling in this area. So,
Dave, do we know what private employers are paying for CDL drivers?
I was about to ask that. Thank you.
Private, on a general average, $30 an hour.
So that's what Continental pays.
They may be around there, maybe a little more, but yes, typically they're about $30 an hour.
How much does it cost to get your CDL license?
That's what I'll be getting into right here. So, yeah, but anywhere in a variety of ranges, so I'm going to cover that as I move forward here. We simply can't compete with the private sector, and despite a robust recruitment effort, hoping we will get lucky that a qualified applicant comes along is not a strategy. We've had openings sitting vacant for as much as 16 months. As of last month, we were down 4 employees, with 2 vacancies, 1 employee on deployment, serving our country, and 1 on injury. Working with 30% less of our workforce, 180 work hours per work week, because each of them account for 45 hours, is difficult enough to keep up with, but as we head into winter, it does cause for greater concern. Many municipalities have shifted to hiring employees and then send them to training schools to obtain the necessary license to operate our trucks. That cost varies between the time of year and which school you will choose to utilize and can range anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. This is not unlike how our other first responders administer their hiring processes too. Often police and fire are sent to their respective agencies upon accepting their positions. Also covered in this line item will be other relevant training courses offered through the T-squared seminars administered through the University of New Hampshire and partially funded through the Federal Highway Administration. In recent years, we have had several retirements and people move into the private sector from our workforce. Our recent hires are in need of quick, informative, and knowledgeable training sessions to bring them up to speed on the vast duties and techniques needed to meet our ever-changing profession. We believe that a well-trained workforce is an advantage for our DPW team, and the town of Londonderry will benefit greatly from it as well. So to that point, there's other larger departments too that are, what they do is they'll have an employee that could be the certified trainer as well. Again, being a smaller department of only 13 and then having 4 vacancies, to then dedicate somebody to go and receive that certification and then provide that training during when we're trying to do work and whatnot.
Can you
It's
highlight
just not
again, how
possible.
much is that training per person?
For, to have a certified trainer on board?
No, for the CDL.
For the CDL, again, depending on the school we go to and when they're available, they can be as little as $5,000. I've seen them up around $8,000 or $10,000. So there's when the law changed a few years ago, that's when we really started to see a decline in the amount of CDL applicants we have coming forward. Again, with the competing private sector that is paying exorbitant rates that we just can't compete with.
Do you feel that only 8,000 will be enough for this if we need to take on
I
more
do.
people?
I went conservative on the number. Again, I didn't want to bloat it right out the gate. This is a new way of doing this. And we'll see if, as we get to 2026, which is where this budget is going to fall, we don't know exactly how many hires we'll have or if we'll, have somebody that needs the CDL. So I wanted to kind of use it as a 2-part effort for training of the local staff that we've just hired and then the potential for CDL licensing.
How long is a CDL course?
I'm sorry?
How long is a CDL course?
Typically 8 to 10 weeks.
3 weeks?
8 to 10 weeks.
8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So certainly if you
Not full
hire
time.
someone today.
Not 40 hours there for 8 to 10 weeks. No, it's a few hours here on a couple nights a week.
Of course, but I'm just thinking, say, for example, if you hired someone tomorrow, they might not even be ready in time for the snow season.
That's correct, and that's why, as I go through some of the other things that I'm talking about, I could have come out and just said, hey, we need 2 more guys. John was talking about that, and the cost of 2 more employees is $236,000. What that will do is just give me 2 more vacancies that I'm having a hard time to fill. So what I tried to do with these 3 line items was infuse some money quickly that will go directly to what we're struggling with. It'll give us some time to revamp our hiring process, and it also causes some complexities down the line about the size of the fleet we have, the facility that we're in. So there's a lot of intangibles that come with expanding our workforce. Can I make a compelling argument to expand our workforce? Absolutely. But I think right now what we need to do is focus on bringing on board some of these additional revenue streams that will help us in a variety of ways with operational efficiencies and safety for our employees as a whole.
But if you're looking at 18 months, it's not unreasonable to say that you could expand your workforce, even if you were expanding it the way that you're talking about.
Yeah, there's no doubt. What I would planning to do, which is difficult to do, and I don't say this in a derogatory way, but as we saw at the beginning of the presentation, there's 5 unions that are negotiating right now. One of the things that I'd like to try to do is create 2 new positions of just laborers, not CDL drivers. So it would be a little bit lesser of a cost than that $236, because we could keep the rate a little bit lower. Laborers we can find, as long as the negotiations team in the town can come to an amenable rate of pay. And what that'll allow us to do is bring in a few more people that we can use for all the labor-intensive stuff that we have. In the wintertime, we can use a couple of the non-CDL trucks that we have. We have a couple of 1-tons that we could use them, and they could be as an additional safety net or an added helping feature to some of the larger routes that we have. Take that response 6 hours around, maybe cut some of those routes that are larger or a little bit more complex to plow, and then that brings that down to 4 hours. And then if they're good employees and we like them and they're proven their worth, we could assist them to get the CDLB license. And then when we have a retiree, or God forbid, one of our employees is hurt or deployed, we immediately have somebody already on staff that has a CDLB, and we can plug them into that.
Are you finding that right now that is your bigger hindrance of hiring someone?
Yes, absolutely.
And I guess the question would be is if within the budget that we have now, if we have some flexibility to include that in the hiring practice right now, to include that or
So
not?
I have some good news about that. So I just illustrated that we had 4 employees down, which has been a challenge. And Art talked about, how we helped them over there at LAFA. We helped out another emergency with a dugout over there in the springtime that was falling in, so we worked with him on that. We just have another one now, too, that is cracked and coming in, so we're working with him on that. And among a variety of other projects that is really not within our, wheelhouse of responsibilities, but nonetheless, we have the ability to help, we're going to do it. But when you're down 4 people, it really does make it a challenge. You may have noticed that, it's October and we're just finally getting around to painting the lines on the street and things like that. And those are all things that are responsibilities that would have typically been done back in, July and August, and we're dealing with other strains that the town is trying to accomplish. So, we've got good news. The employee that was injured is back. We hired a new person that started Monday of this week, and we have a couple more interviews. I'm proud to say we have 2 people to interview Monday. And the gentleman that is proudly serving our country right now on the southern border will be back by the end of this month. So right now, my stress levels come down a little bit. As we know, it was snowing Monday. It did not make me feel happy when I woke
So
up.
you may be slightly more closer to full staff for the winter season.
Mother Nature's given us a warning shot. We've secured our contracted equipment, and we should be at full staff going into winter.
It's 70 next week, Dave.
Well, it snowed this past Monday, John.
Next month would be great,
It did not
70.
snow. It's a figment of your imagination.
I saw it hit my roof. Filling up.
Dave's making it up.
Any more questions around the CDL training aspect of that line item?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, just walk me through this, right? So someone comes in, right, labor rate, whatever, labor category, takes the training, you pay them to go take the training, right? So you successfully recruited someone, trained them, right? What do we have to retain them? I mean, what would prevent them from going to industry afterwards?
Fantastic question, I am. Thank you that you asked that. Again, that is some of the challenges that we're working through right now. If this is supported, we have to look at the way we're going to recreate our training processes. We'll probably mimic them a lot to how police and fire do as well when they send them off to an academy and whatnot. They're not allowed to just, hey, thanks, I'm going to go work in Keene. So there's some of those things that need to be worked through with legal and HR and in the town manager's office. So.
They got to be worked into the CBAs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's tough to come in, and as Justin and I talked about this as well, it's tough to come in and ask for a couple of positions that haven't even really been formed yet within the union. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The good news is we're in negotiation with that union now.
Correct.
So,
I guess this is a question for Justin. For Public Works, why did life insurance and retirement go down 5,000 and 9,000?
That would be our new vendor with the much better rates.
And for the retirement benefits?
Retirement's rate decreased from 14 to 12.75 for Group 1 employees.
Say again?
Retirement's rates for all the employees this year were reevaluated for next year,
Yeah.
and they all went down.
Is that what is required from us to pay into the system from the state?
Yes. They do it every every 2 years. They come out with the numbers
For Group 1?
for all of them. They all went
okay,
down.
Okay, for both Group 1, 2.
Okay. I guess the question is someone else making up that difference?
I believe it's the reason they went down is the increase in profits they've seen over the time and how well their stocks have improved in the market.
But it's not like another entity is making up that $9,100.
All New Hampshire retirement, no matter what town school district you're in, have the same rate.
Yeah, but what you gotta keep in mind is if the rate goes down, that becomes the default number, not the higher number.
Right.
That's the rub.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, it's unfortunate for
That's why
the
it's a bad
workers.
law.
It's not good.
Yeah, but it's not
So
because we're not shorting their retirement accounts. Their
No.
retirement accounts have
So
performed well
NHRS,
over the
New
last
Hampshire
period of time.
retirement system, gives us this number. It's legally required by the state of New Hampshire's constitution. We pay it. Back in 2019, I believe the rate was 11.17%. And then in 2020, it jumped up to the 14, I believe. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, but remember,
But it jumped up, and now it's been slowly decreasing again.
Yeah, because gave us a presentation that
Yeah.
their investments have been doing quite well the past few years.
Exactly. So when they do their not revaluation, but they go in and look at their numbers, they then will lower the thresholds for everybody, or increase if they haven't been doing as well to cover it, or
it's very strange because they also told us in that presentation they're underfunded.
Right, exactly,
So
at the same
I
time.
don't really understand what they're doing, but okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to make sure that our people are going to have a good living when they're done working for our town.
you will need to talk to New Hampshire Retirement about that one. That is outside of my jurisdiction. I can tell you that we will pay what New Hampshire Retirement tells us to pay.
Sounds great, thank you.
Okay. So before I move on, I want to kind of set the stage here for the next item we're talking about. And so just a quick little 30-second clip to kind of give you a little bit of perspective as to how we work.
This isn't another election commercial.
No. I think we've all had enough of that.
Yes.
It's about 30 seconds, so bear with us.
Most of us feel pretty safe when we're at work. But every year, highway and utility workers are injured or killed on the job. That's because drivers aren't careful and don't slow down when they approach work zones. Think about it. How would you like it if someone drove through your workplace at 65 miles an hour? Work zone crews are just doing their job. Speed a little, lose a lot in work zones.
Thank you, Tristan.
Great, I like that.
So that commercial was actually made in the 90s.
That's sad.
Just to give you a little bit of reference as to where we are today versus then. And we've been talking about this. I've been doing this for 29 years. We've been talking about this since I got in the.
You want to make a new one for?
No, I think that one speaks perfectly to what we see every day. So $150,000 line item request is a lot of money to talk about, and so I've got my prepared speech, and then we can get into it a little bit more. It is the most important request for increased funding is presented in an entirely new line item. Work Zone Safety Services is a request for $150,000, and I think we can all agree that our most valuable asset is our employees. This request has the greatest direct impact on their safety while performing their work on the roadways. In an ever-changing world, it is widely known and has been discussed in front of various boards over the concerns Londonderry has with traffic, speed, the volume, and distracted drivers of the motoring public on our roadways. I mean, to the point, cell phones weren't even around when that video was made. We have had multiple people bring to concern how dangerous it is just to walk on the shoulders, ride a motorcycle, or even simply drive a car. So you can certainly appreciate my concerns about our employees trying to work under these conditions. Currently, our department is not specifically funded to hire police details when we set up work zones to perform work such as tree work, shoulder maintenance, paving operations, and other important maintenance tasks. We use 2 of our employees to function as flaggers. There are many issues using flaggers versus detailed police officers. When the motoring public comes upon a work zone controlled by an identifiable police officer, there is a definitive difference on how drivers react to their presence versus ours. People generally know that if they speed through or disobey work zone laws, they are more likely to be caught and dealt with in the moment. With us performing traffic control, we have no legal authority to deal with violations or write citations, although I would certainly love to. Chief, if you could just... Thank you.
Deputize.
Good book. I'll writer's
But
cramp
the
by
money
the end of
goes
the
to the
week.
state, so it's no help.
We simply tolerate it at times and hope for the best. Hope should not be a strategy when we're trying to implement workplace best management practices to provide the highest levels of safety. Our safety services, other safety services that we could deploy are temporary jersey barriers for much longer projects, impact attenuators, appropriately sized shoring devices for trenches, and other items that are not owned by the department as they are too costly and not needed year-round. Therefore, we could rent them on an as-needed basis to provide the utmost protection to our staff. Working in the roadways is inherently dangerous, and we're making this request to provide the highest level possible of safety for our personnel and the traveling public through our work zones. And as you can see, this is something that I've seen these actually, and when I just was down in South Carolina visiting my daughter, there's a new, ironically, South Carolina, that video was provided by North Carolina. So they've been on top of this for quite some time.
You need to buy some of those signs?
And the new sign that they use is, it says, let them work, let them live. And I could go into a lot of scary statistics, and probably one of the most dangerous things that we do is actually filling potholes. We've had people right here in the state of New Hampshire die because it's a moving work zone. Those are often the most dangerous and difficult to control. And so when we're out there, it's usually a 2-man team. They're in a truck, and the worst part is they are behind the truck. So if they don't have a chase vehicle or perhaps a detail officer with them, bad things happen when people are speeding and they come around a curve. And we've had some pretty ugly scenarios play out here in the state of New Hampshire with local municipalities filling potholes and whatnot. So again, I bring this forward for discussion because I think this year alone, we've erected 9 new stop signs, creating new intersections in town. We've put up slow curve ahead signs. There's a lot of requests that come forward in front of the Traffic Safety Committee. We've been talking about the speed in town and reducing speed in town. Sign does change the speed limit, but it certainly sometimes does not change the behavior that we experience out there. When people come upon us, it's usually at the worst time of day because we start at 7 a.m., so we're out on the road by 8, and usually people are trying to go to work, drop their kids off to school, and we're impeding their ability to do so. We've done a lot and taken great strides in the last couple of years on social media to inform the public and let them know that we're going to be out there when we're doing it. But nonetheless, when we're there, they want us out of the way. So you can imagine some of the things that we hear, law enforcement officers, we see a lot of what they take in the guff that they give them. So imagine if you have zero legal authority on how their day proceeds from there. At least law enforcement can kind of maybe self-correct or educate them in how they're driving or what they're saying to them, but we certainly don't, so we need to take it. And some of the things that have been said to our staff and myself, when you're out there in the roadway, people are impatient, and that becomes a part of you after a while. And so we're looking to improve the way that we work while we're on the roadways. So
I want to share with you another stat people may be a little bit more relatable to.
Mm-hmm.
The average survival time for a vehicle stopped in an emergency lane is less than 20 minutes. Emergency lanes are dangerous places to stop because of the risk of severe accidents. So this happened to me recently, and I was lucky to get off at a rest stop. Survival rate less than 20 minutes if you're in the breakdown lane.
Wow. That's sad.
Any questions on this? I know it's a new request, so
So the $150,000 would be used for police details.
and other devices that we may need. In other words, I'll give you a good example. So if we have an open trench that we're dealing with, and then we realize we got to go a little bit deeper, sometimes what you'll do in order to make it safe to go in, you can step your trenches and whatnot. That just takes more time. More of the road work area is disturbed. This would allow us to bring in, the type of trenching that we need, shoring and whatnot to protect the employees from going in. So it's not just about hiring police officers. If we're going to be out in an area for a long period of time, we know it's going to be an involved cut. We could deploy out some Jersey barriers that we could rent in. Again, we do have some. They're pretty beat up, and if you're going to leave them in the roadway, they really need to be a little bit newer and pinned, and we can just have a service bring them in. For our guys to do it, we don't have a low bed. We do have a trailer, but to bring in the amount that we need fast and set it all up we were talking about with the sewer and the involvement earlier. Sometimes those things are needed, and to be able to have the resources to do
Sometimes
it.
they happen in winter too, and then you have plow trucks and.
That is when it happens.
It is always when it happens. That's when frost is in the ground, and that's when things tend to go pop. So, and again, just with having the police there, all too often when our guys are flagging, we may have 4 people doing the work while 2 are flagging.
So how many more police officers do we need to hire?
Well, I'll leave that. I'll defer to the chief.
I
when
have
he
an
comes
idea
up.
about that too.
But so the flaggers are trying to pay attention. But perhaps we should have had 5 or 6 on the crew. We just don't have it. So sometimes it's like, well, the flagger might real quickly just move the truck up a little bit or something to that effect. And whenever you think you're doing something innocent enough and you take a risk like that, that's usually when things go wrong. So I don't want you to give you the impression that we've been working unsafe, that we're taking in real big risks out there. But I think in today's motoring traffic, it's time to have this discussion and talk about putting the highest level of protection we can for our employees while we're out there. So, and that's that line. So the snow removal services line is the funding for contracted plow equipment. This equipment is essentially our safety net for our plowing and salting operations. We have adjusted our rates nominally over the past 2 years in an attempt to keep up with other competing towns around us, and we're still at the lowest end of the scale. In fact, in 2023, we were unable to secure any contracted equipment due to our rates. If contracted equipment is not secured, it places a larger work burden on the staff and decreases our response times to plow the routes efficiently and quickly. This equipment also backfills our staff shortages as a supplemental workforce when vacancies are ongoing, an employee is sick or injured or even deployed serving our country. We have exceeded this line item by as much as almost double in 2 out of the last 3 years when we were able to secure the equipment. I cannot stress enough the importance of keeping the roads clear and well enough for when the police and fire departments make their calls. They need to make their calls as quickly and safely as possible when time is of the essence. The contracted equipment plays a vital role in having a safe, successful winter operation plan, and we hope you will support the additional $15,000 request to secure the emergency equipment. Like I said earlier, we're paying right now $135 per hour for a 6-wheeler contracted. That matches a couple of communities around us, but others are paying as much as $150, $160 an hour. So when we're trying to compete with that, again, the contractors are having their own hard time finding CDL drivers. John and I were talking a little yesterday too. It plays in, it touches everything. Your waste management services. We had a couple of delays this summer, and people are why isn't the truck here, whatnot, and they're struggling too to find CDL drivers. Their trucks break down. Mechanics are in high demand. So if you can't get a mechanic just to do an oil change, imagine asking them to go work on a trash truck with that smell, and you can imagine. I don't need to be colorful enough. Yeah.
Or a honey wagon.
You got it. Anyway.
But in all 3 of these, just to kind of go back, all 3 of these requests added up is $173,000. And so, John started to talk about hiring 2 people, and so 2 more people would be the $233,476.45. I'm telling you, Justin is good. He gets it right down to the penny for us. So that would have been a $60,000 larger request. Also, going in front of, we were talking about, the community that's struggling and whatnot. I don't know whether they'd support 2 people or not. I think we have a good rapport with the public, and we've done a lot to educate the public about what we do and the services we provide. But I don't want to gamble with getting some safety and some training to the employees that we employ now. 2 more people in a hiring process that we're already struggling with to secure for our current vacancies, I think would just complicate things. But it is something that you can count on that I will be back talking about in years to come. We have fleet challenges, we have facility challenges and whatnot. But we'll talk about fleet in a little bit after the road program stuff, and then and potentially facility stuff. Any questions on the 3 that I've discussed so far? Okay, thank you.
So Donna, so for fiscal year 24-25, again, we're talking last year, again, the road projects, these are the 10 roads that are on the list. We did get okay from town council to obtain money through the roadway maintenance trust fund. We got that in mid-July, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, we had a late start to the construction season. As Dave says, we have had an April storm. We're down people. So again, it's not just as quickly as, we get the money, and this represents about 3.4 miles of road that we're gonna be shimming and overlaying for a cost of about $775,000. Before we get out there, again, we need to clean the shoulders, we need to replace any of the drainage that's associated with it. We'll be asking what the heck we're doing if we're gonna pave it, and then we'll go back there next week to dig it up. It's not very smart. So there's also some water extension projects over on Winding Pond Road. That's in the process now. So there's a lot of moving parts. We don't want to do it too early, just to be, again, asking what the hell we're doing. Sims Drive, again, the Noria facility there, that was, again, I didn't want to jump on that one too early. Let them do their thing, so when we get in there and we shim and overlay the road, we're done. So
I don't have to do it twice.
Now, John, I believe you had presented last year that Bancroft Road was going to be on the list?
Bancroft is full depth reconstruction. So these right here,
Shim and
Ted,
overlay?
are shim and overlay,
Okay.
as well as
I guess you should have added that to the title.
yeah. So again, and even you'll see Bancroft is not on the following slide either. So again, Bancroft Road is a beast of its own, Ted, and that's a full depth reconstruction.
Yes.
So again, that Bancroft Road, that half mile of road probably cost us $775,000 to do
Yep.
that portion.
Yep.
So I'm kind of kicking it down the road because again, we got the
You got the-
gravity sewer coming down. too.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of moving parts.
Yep. I thought you would probably do them at the same time. I was just curious upon the timing. That's all.
That would be the ideal, yeah. So again, I still need to secure easements, clear trees, clear utilities, or move utilities. So it's on the books.
Gotcha, thank you.
I knew you'd ask the question.
Well, it just seems to be getting worse every day.
Oh, I hear you, So, Donna, the next slide, again, these are, again, shim and overlay projects for fiscal year 25-26. Portion of Boyd Road, portion of Harvey, Morningside on the south end of town, Ridgemont on the south end of town, and then Stonehenge. So again, for instance, Stonehenge, we try to include it when it's the offside, and when the rotary goes in on the east side.
Yep.
At Stonehenge, and so there is a method to the madness, believe it or not. So that's all I have.
You have a method to your madness, John?
Yeah, there is, believe it. Yeah,
Man is to your method.
there you go.
All right. So I have three pieces of equipment that I want to talk about. And one is a large six-wheel dump truck, one is a brush flail mower, and then a one-ton utility body 4x4 one-ton truck. I want to bring good news. So we've got some good news. Since 2021, we have worked hard to bring the vehicle replacement program back to a position where vehicles and equipment have been deferred for many years past their life cycle. And the average age of our fleet was 7.08 years old across our 26 frontline pieces of equipment and trucks. Mind you, we do have 34, but I'm just specifically talking to ones that impact public safety during the winter months. We were playing catch up on 5 vehicles previously deferred, to a point now that we are only 1 vehicle away from being completely back on track, and we have improved our fleet vehicle age to 6.54 years old as of today. We received 3 of the new trucks from the 23 FY budget that just came in this week. So those will be out there this week, which means 3 trucks that were 39 years old in combined ages out the door, and we have 3 new ones. That helps us immensely when we're plowing. We won't suffer some breakdowns on at least those trucks. The importance of staying on track is because of lead time. I'll kind of shorten it up here in time, but basically from the moment that we started discussion on April 9th of 2023 with the bid process, but we started discussing the trucks I just talked about November 5th, 2022. So that's 1.98 years, or almost 2 years, 725 days ago, that we are finally now receiving those trucks. So essentially with this year's request, we are no longer deferring trucks if approved. We do have one other truck that I could have brought forward today, one other large 6-wheeler truck that I could have brought forward today, because it is due in 2026. So that does fall technically into this, but we took a good look at that truck. We didn't want to just bring forward a truck just simply based upon age. We know there's a lot that's going to be discussed in this year's budget. And so we thought, looking at the out years and whatnot and how we've caught up, that, to do one truck this year and then one next year, I think it was just a little bit of that conservative mechanism in us that, don't bring forward, we know there's a lot of challenges. So, and, obviously it's important to have a well-oiled machine of fleet. This helps us tremendously during work emergencies, and the safety of the motoring public in Londonderry is dependent on our ability to continually plow and treat the roadways, especially when those calls come in for police and fire. I thank you for being committed and supporting the vehicle replacement program over the years to help us be responsive first responders you've come to expect out of the Londonderry Public Works Department. This specific truck that you see up here on the screen is, again, one of our large 6-wheel dump trucks. It is a 2013 truck, which the 2013s was around the 2011 to 2013s was these trucks were tough when it was when a lot of the emission controls changes were coming in, and so that's why I'm happy we have 3 new trucks. But back when we used to get new trucks, we get all excited that we had new trucks, and sometimes the newer trucks didn't make them out of the yard versus the old reliable ones because of those emission changes. But a lot of that's been worked out over the years. As you can see, there's a lot of rust and whatnot. I just don't want to be too long-winded. So if you have any specific questions about this truck, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone?
You got a lot of rust.
Certainly do.
Yep.
Will it make another season or no?
This one,
Yeah.
it's going to have to. I can talk a little bit about the cost of vehicles and what we've seen just in 1 year's time of bidding. And
On your front end steering assembly, that's awfully badly corroded. I don't know if that will really make it.
yeah, we do our best to keep them clean. We wash with the facility that we have. And to your point about maintaining them, these trucks are truly getting up in cost. We saw in this year's bid a 7.25% increase on the cost of the trucks. So the 2 that we just bid out came in at $223,491 versus
Each or?
each.
Wow.
Yeah. Versus, the 3 that we just received, those were $207.25. So just in 1 year's time, you can see. And then the lead time has not improved at all. There's other things impacting the market too about certain states are mandating that these trucks go to electric. That poses a lot of concern for me, and I hope I'm retired by the time it finally hits our department.
Live free or die, baby.
But
What is the lead time?
right now on these trucks is about 18 months. Yeah. But again, if you talk about what we're talking about right here today, and then voting in March, and then doing the bid process, and then
This has to last at least 2 seasons.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So that's really the importance of staying on track with your vehicle replacement program, because every year you delay, you're really kicking it 2 years,
2 years,
not
yeah.
just a year.
Because of the way the budget season works, yeah.
Correct. So the next slide, is Art still in the room?
No.
I didn't think he would
Well,
be.
Dave, if you break down in my neighborhood, I'll make sure they get coffee or something.
I'm not gonna read verbatim what I have in front of you, because this is a little tricky to explain. The Recreation Department has the truck seen in slides 3 through 6. You can see the rust and rot on the quarter panels. The wheels are rusting off of it. It's got a little over 70,000 miles on it. It's seasonally used by Sid, their maintenance guy. You see him zipping around town. And it's in dire straits. It's an F-150. We currently use the truck seen in photo 2, which is also an F-150. It has about 70,000 miles on it as well, a little over. But it's in much better condition than Sid's. It was repurposed from Town Hall, where it was being used when I arrived down to DPW, and so it's had less miles being used in Town Hall and then maintained fairly well. And really, it doesn't meet our needs for our buildings and grounds foreman. So what we are looking to do is, you see in picture number 1, that's the truck that we got 2 years ago for our assistant highway foreman, and we believe that that is a more suited vehicle for our entire purposes across our entire department. You can see it would provide us with an additional plow. You don't put those on F-150s if you want them to last more than a year. And it has a utility body on it, whatnot, for all his various tools and whatnot as he runs around these buildings, maintaining things and doing his work. So rather than Art coming forward to you for a truck and then us coming forward to you for a truck, again, being conservative and trying to meet all of our needs of the different departments, we thought that this was a good way to go about it, to get the appropriately type of vehicle that we need. Art gets a vehicle that should last them a few more years, and then the white F-150 would go down the road, or would act as a trade-in towards the utility truck.
That's a 1-ton?
Correct.
You're asking for?
Yes.
11 years. Is that really reasonable for that amount of rust?
Well,
And for only 80,000
so when
miles?
it's stored wintertime and a vehicle just sits in a gravel parking lot covered in snow, rain, and ice, we don't have a facility to put it in. So,
That's what happened.
that's what happens.
Just check.
It's just sitting there for
Pulling equipment in and out. And
Yep.
4 or 5 months of the year. It's just being buried under snow and dust and dirt, and it's in the mud, and the wheels rust. And worst thing you can do for a vehicle is park a truck.
Just making sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why, the truck that we're using, it's at least been constantly used or washed and whatnot. And it's no wrongdoing on the recreation department, it's just a function of their department.
Of course.
So Dave, you're proposing taking the vehicle in number 2 and moving that to
Rec.
rec?
Yeah.
And then replacing that vehicle with a 1-ton?
Correct.
Utility body.
With number
and
1,
plow.
yeah.
Thank you.
What's the turnaround on getting the 1-ton?
Those are a little bit quicker. We usually see about 6 months. So,
And do you paint
if
them?
approved, we could bid this right out the gate after voting, and then we could potentially have it by after July 1st when the funds are available. And so, Sid would be working with the white truck, through the first part of the season. But then by the time it's on its last leg and whatnot, ours would arrive and we'd make the switch.
And you do all the painting and everything too?
For
The vehicles? The painting them yellow?
so the new vehicles,
Yeah.
no, they come in
Like
as
stock.
ordered. Yes, yeah.
Gotcha, thank you.
They just have to put the sticker on.
What's that?
You just put a sticker of the magnet?
Yeah,
on
the
it?
vehicle will come with one, and then we do the annual state inspections, yeah.
No. I meant the details.
Oh, yes,
DPW.
yeah. that photo was taken when we first received it behind Ford, so it wasn't completely fitted up yet.
So I guess what you're really saying is we need a garage that's bigger so our vehicles do not deteriorate
Well,
as fast as they do.
we need a facility. We don't have one. We have a garage,
Well, it's not big
single
enough.
bay that we work on trucks, but we don't have a storage facility.
No,
Yes.
it's not big enough. It doesn't fit your needs.
I would argue that we don't have one, but
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
we're saying the same thing.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So, and the next slide is so again, another vehicle that's a tough one to maintain, especially because it's not used year-round, but it provides one of probably the most important lines of sight issues, clearing brush and on the corners, down the roadside shoulders, keeping the grass mowed down. We use it out on the rail trails too as well when they request it. But this particular piece of equipment, got to put my Justin glasses on here for a minute, is 4 years. If we were able to, secure the funding to replace this vehicle, it'll be 4 years past it. Now, this past summer, perfect storm, it went down. It's a specialty item, so it's not like you can call up Ford and say, hey, can you come work on our tractor? No. So we had to have it hauled up to New Boston. We had to take the boom flail off, send it up there, let them work on it. It was out of our use for at least 8 weeks. Cost about $5,000 to repair it. All the while, it's right in the heart of summer when the grass is really tall, the brush. Everybody's calling and complaining, I can't see around this curve, I can't see, at the stop sign. So unfortunately, it becomes labor intensive, and we got to send, a couple guys out with weed whackers and brush whackers and whatnot, and work on the shoulders. And again, and poison ivy and poison. Hopefully, they don't, get taken out from that stuff. But so you can see the tires are worn on it. The boom flail head, which it does take a lot of abuse. It's bouncing off rocks sometimes, and you're throwing that into the grass stuff. You don't know exactly what you're going to hit. We've done a lot of welding on it, and so we're contemplating, that an attachment, as you see the loader in photo 2 is kind of shaded out because we're not asking for a loader. We're looking for is an attachment that we believe we could mount on the loader and then use the existing hydraulic system to then power that and use that to go down the road. Now we have 2 loaders, so it would tie one up, but only for a few months out of the year.
And they're quick disconnect ish.
Correct. So that's what we're thinking would probably work a little bit better for our operation.
Does this cost of replacement include any type of storage for it in the off season to protect it, the lifespan of it or anything? Okay.
So you're talking about replacing the tractor and in the same dollar amount here, and also getting an additional boom flail basically in operation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the tractor will go away. The
Replace.
picture 1 goes away, and picture 2 is what we're looking at. And just to kind of give you a visual of what it would look, complete would be slide 6 there.
Yep.
But the end result would be that we'd have 2 of these. No.
One.
We still only have 1 operational. Okay. Could the old one serve as a backup?
I honestly, looking at our rap sheet on that, I don't want to put any more money into that piece of equipment. It's been problematic since I arrived, and I think we're at a point where
Cut ties. You pour money.
It's in tough situations. It gets put into violent. Sometimes you don't know if there's a boulder in there, a rock wall. It takes a beating, and it's also kind of a complicated, antiquated style type of a boom flail. Now there's a lot of different options out there, but this is the one that we're kind of thinking would work best for us.
Okay.
It's exceeded its useful life,
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't want to. It's becoming a money pit. It's time to cut the cord with this one.
Gotcha.
Sorry for the
Nope.
colorful language.
You just want it to be in a Tom Hanks movie, that's all.
Yeah. Any other questions on fleet? If not, I just, also in closing, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for John, but, really want to thank the members of the board. We've covered a lot of ground in short order here with Fleet and other lines that were, over the years. And I lastly want to thank all of our staff. And Donna sits quietly always here every year, and she does a tremendous amount of work at helping put together our slides and presentations. And thanks to Cheerston this year doing yeoman's work. And then of course all of our staff. It has been a tough year being down 4 employees. They have really, it's tough. I didn't mention it, but they also work, Wednesday nights down the drop-off center. They work on rotation basis on Saturdays, and then we have a tree down here and there. We did have a early spring storm. It's been a difficult year. We're pretty thankful that we're hopefully going to be at full strength going into winter, but they've worked really, really tirelessly, and everybody should be proud for how much they do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dave, or John, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm all set.
Anything from the council or the budget committee?
I want to ask something, because I noticed that salaries did not go over the default budget, so I'm thinking it's just the incremental raises and stuff like that to increase those salaries. One of the things we've talked about before in some of like the tours of DPW and stuff is how sometimes the salaries of our DPW employees are not in line with the surrounding towns and such, and that kind of makes it difficult to recruit. Yes. Are we at a point yet where we need to think about increasing that, or?
So,
I'm sorry.
Great.
We're in a CBA discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're in negotiations
yeah.
now.
Oh, okay, got it.
And I'll answer that just kind of vaguely, because, correct, John. So, good observation. And what we hear, another complication of the hiring process is that our rates are lower than surrounding towns. The other thing, too, that doesn't exactly attract people is they work a 45-hour work week.
Okay.
And so right now, working, I don't see this in a mean way, but, typically people only want to work 40 hours a week, never mind 45. And so when you're looking for a younger workforce and they got a young family, committing to 45-hour work week plus a weeknight and a Saturday and then snowstorms and everything else, it's not exactly exciting. And so when you look at their start rate but then you add the overtime on, they may be making more at the end of the year than other municipalities, but to try and explain that to a prospective candidate, and they don't want to work 45 hours, so that's something that is up for consideration that the union is working through negotiations, as John said. So
I think that's the same thing that I've been seeing. That's why that position's been vacant for 2.5 years.
Yep.
You can make a heck of a lot more money on the other side. You just need to like what you do, and I like what I do.
Yep.
So soup the nuts.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize that was the whole thing.
Just as a general clarification, outside of police and fire, we are in active negotiations with a number of the other collective bargaining groups.
Okay.
And the questions you're bringing up are being addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from anyone? Gentlemen, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And for your time.
Do you want to put that video, on Facebook?